Not doing it just
No way!
Pest Control Peanut, though, combined for a pair of kills. Gonna be even now on the board. Dev Coldboom just yeets themselves onto point and pays for it with their life.
Nobody's checking. He's got one, a second, a third to be had.
It's stuck. It has a 2-goal lead. Look at that touch.
What an amazing redirect.
This is the one. Oh my god.
UH.
Which, well, what?
Falcon's going to center it up to Keegan.
Okay.
Keegan gets just barely a tire on it.
This Razor, who out the doorway is able to walk away with a kill. Klinger hops in the doorway. Comma there as well. You can't walk away with a kill, and there's no time left.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the round of 16, the playoffs here at the Naystar League for Overwatch 2. My name is Warren Jungle God Hammond, joined on the mic as always by LaFon.
And what an exciting time to be available to us, these games. Jungle, I mean, a fantastic day, right? We entered into the playoff bracket proper, right? Round of 16, as you highlighted. I got a chance to see teams who have fought all this way, even through the last chance qualifiers, those that weren't quite able to make it through earlier bracket play, now into the playoffs itself. And this is where champions are made, right? This is where you get your opportunity to set in. And on top of all of that, I mean, we're in a new patch. It's a new season in Overwatch itself. And of course, the games are going to be nothing but spectacular.
Yeah, this is going to be fantastic. We've got two very excited matches ahead of us today. Right off the bat, we're going to be taking a look at Ashland and University of Maryland, both of whom are sporting a 6-1 record right now, LaFon.
Yeah, let's take a look, of course, at what our day looks like, though, for the schedule here on the first day of the playoffs. Of course, the two games on the bracket, Ashland University and Maryland, as you highlighted. Of course, two teams entirely familiar to our stream in the second half. Brian and Stratton taking on Drexel University. So some excellent gameplay there. Now, as we dial into this first match, though, yeah, as you highlighted, two teams that are sitting at that 6-1 record. And the way they got that record was really impressive. Ashland has played a lot on stream in the last little while, due to the fact they had to play through the last chance qualifiers, right? We got a chance to see, you know, sort of their evolution in these last couple of days or last couple of weeks. And even, you know, as we kind of highlighted towards the end of the regular season, you expect to be at a place where you're trending upwards into the playoffs. Ashland has taken that to a new level.
They certainly have, and it's been with a lot of adjustment as well, right? This is a team that when we saw them first in the spring split, they were really enjoying running the wrecking ball into recent compositions, right? But recently, right when we saw them in the last chance qualifiers, they've been running a little bit more rush, and so it's been interesting seeing kind of the evolution of this team in general. Maryland, on the other hand, we really haven't seen since, I don't think, early on in the spring split, and at that point they were really trying to play a lot around their Sojourn player Speep. So I'll be curious to see if that's still going to be the case, or if Speep has kind of evolved and moved on to a different DPS.
And of course, the teams ahead of us getting a chance to see who's on these rosters. And yeah, you highlighted Speep there, of course. But you know, Ashland University, one of the big strengths, and we talked to them after their game of the last chance qualifier, right? You know, you highlighted they like playing the wrecking ball all the time, or they did at the start of the season. I think something they've taken pride in, that they told us, you know, at the end of the LCQ, was that they've become a more flexible team, right? They've become a more well-rounded squad, and I think expectations here are for Ashland University. You know, they're not a one-trick team anymore. Whatever there's going to be need to be provided, they can. And I'm really looking at B1H, I think, on this game specifically, because they've been impressive all season long, and they can really dial it in here and take it to the next level as they head into the playoffs.
Yeah, so that's certainly going to be something that Maryland's going to have to kind of keep tabs on, right? Is what kind of composition do they feel best going up against Ashland? You know, can they force Ashland into a composition or on a map that perhaps they aren't as comfortable on? But I mean, like we said, they have become a very, very flexible team. It's hard to find a weakness, I think, on this roster anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you know, these teams relatively, I'd say like towards the middle of the pack, sort of in seeding 8, 9 seed overall, coming into this. And so, I mean, here's the thing, right? When we come into the playoff bracket, because we have that LCQ system, towards the top end, you have the teams that are going to be challenging for that, who are essentially expected to be challenging for a finals berth, right? Maryville University comes to mind as kind of one of the teams that, steps up. But in the middle of the pack here, the teams that had to fight through the LCQ, one of the big things in collegiate at this time of the year, or around this time now with the evolution that has kind of come through, is that teams have gotten so much better so quickly that I think there could be very much in this, the 6, 7, 8, 9 spot, a dark horse that is really going to put a lot of pressure on some of the teams towards the top end. Don't be surprised, right, if you come into the finals and all of a sudden it's a team you weren't necessarily expecting outright, but who has performed quite strongly to get there. And as we start off on map number 1, it's an opportunity for both these teams to start the playoffs on the right foot, get in aggressively and start, putting other teams on notice, being aware of kind of the aggression and the growth that these squads have had over the last little while.
Yeah, and I mean, that growth is absolutely something we have seen from Ashland, so certainly going to be expecting more of that. Maryland is the question mark to me, right? What has changed since the last time we saw them? Have they just gotten better at what they do, or are they branching out in new directions? And of course, Lijiang Tower being the place we're going to start, it's a great opportunity to kind of see where that evolution has led, what these teams are, when they step out of the gates here on this first sub-map, what is their look they are going to be showing us? Because that's going to be, I think, the, what they want to play and what they are thinking about moving forward in a lot of ways.
4, 3, 2.
Well, we find ourselves underway around number 1 and starting on Night Market, and interestingly, I mean, Ashland already showcasing that flexibility that we highlighted from them as they are on a brawl composition, teleport quickly to the point. Maryland a lot slower of a approach due to the fact they have to kind of surround their opposition, looking for an opportunity to get in.
And it is going to be Speep actually on the Tracer to start things out, so this is a little bit of a different look for them. This composition from Maryland, it's going to be playing to try and kind of surround this point, see if they can poke away at somebody a little bit as they move in. But now we're starting to see the pressure being put on, but Tony is forced to back away, and Ashland gets first control of the point. And right now Maryland is still just poking and prodding, but not really fighting a whole lot at the moment. LaFon,
just have to play a little bit slow because that anti-nade obviously not available. Nice teleport in, actually.
Ooh, yeah, that's big, but an anti-nade coming out from Paul is going to do a lot of damage there. So each team looking a little worse for wear at the moment, but it will be Ashland who fares better during it. Novazor on point is able to find one. Point does flip over to Maryland, but quickly reclaimed by Ashland.
A quick recall here from Speep, and I mean, despite the good the heads up play by Paul there, it's just not enough. Maryland going to change a couple of players. Tony going over to a Doomfist most notably, and I mean, you need to be able to follow up on these anti-nades, right? 4 players hit in that teleporter, and you still can only get 1 elimination. Maryland need to tighten up their gameplay just a little bit on that focus fire. Ashland doing a great job of surviving at the moment.
And Tony has dived onto the point now, try to create a little bit of space for the team, see if they can find an opportunity to maybe go in and stay in, because that's one thing that you can kind of do on the Doomfist. But again, another TP out into the plaza, into the courtyard is going to take a few players down low. Novazor does fall. Tony has been nano boosted. Shatter comes in from Cheesy Dance. That's going to lay down Lazy, but Tony is able to get away from it, but not the Fire Strike.
Ashland playing a little bit on the red line, and yet just barely staying in control. That is an unfortunate recall. I think you're going to get delayed. Yes. Yeah. Going to be with that elimination into final fight. Ashland not afraid to hit the go button, right? When they see the fight perhaps turning away from them. Now, how does Maryland reapproach? Tony going to take a lot of aggression on the point, use that meter strike to get to safety. But you need that punching power thereafter. It doesn't really look like they have much to be able to get through. They need to extend this fight into the Transcendence specifically. It's a good start for Maryland with that pickoff.
That it is, because B1H has been a big part of how Ashland has been able to get a lot of these picks. Speed now picking things up on the back end, does find Revelia. Dragon Strike goes through point, but Cheesy Dance with a well-placed Fire Strike finds one. 99% on the board right now, but Maryland is going to be coming away with this point capture.
Sometimes when you're in a dire straits as Maryland was, no immediate utility available, you need a hero, you need a pickup play, and Novazor was exactly that with the Hanzo. Still, it's not out of the woods yet here for Maryland. They need to return to that 100% marker entirely uncontested. Keep in mind, Ashland only need to win 1 fight. I mean, you're going to see Maryland. You can't overspend here. Just the Transcendence to sustain. is going to be the critical marker.
Varsity is making a beeline for the point right now. Tony going down to about half health. Lazy forced to use that Transcendence just to keep them alive. In the meantime, though, Novasaur has found one. Pulse Bomb's gonna go wide, but Memes has used the sound barrier, so now Maryland has an opportunity to strike even harder. Varsity gets denied the Death Blossom. So, with Revelia, though, finding Tony and Memes, the support line for Ashley coming alive here. They are going to almost be able to flip the point. We have Paul diving onto it with reckless abandon. Point now in favor of Ashley. They've just got a couple players to clean up, and this point will be theirs.
It's going to be just the Doomfist left now, and not for very much longer either, so Ashlyn will turn that back in their favor. A little bit messy there from Ashlyn on the retake, but I mean, in this instance, right, Maryland simply has no tools whatsoever. And that's when you get to 99%, when you get to, you know, that final fight territory, and you're forced, you force your opponent to have to use everything just to flip the point back in their favor. All of a sudden, you know, it just takes one skirmish fight to turn it to flip the point, and Ashlyn do a great job of that. And you know, even as they lose players, they make sure to trade. It's not an uncontested a loss. And of course, Ashlyn just a better composition on point with the Reinhardt. Maryland can't contest in close, and they'll take round number 1.
And one thing I want to highlight too is B1H, who you talked about, right? Being very, very curious about them and what they were going to do, and saw a lot from them. I mean, the teleporters were fantastic there on the first point, but now find ourselves in Garden. Tony sticking with the Doomfist as well, taking a lot of damage. Forced to back away over the bridge. Cheesy Dance is on the Junker Queen as well. But this kind of neutral area being controlled very well by Ashlyn at the moment. And they're keeping Tony at bay, which means they should be able to back up to the point right now and at least get a lot of progress on it, if not capping it outright.
Yeah, but still playing with a ton of fire. No team is even going to pick off yet. It's going to be very critical to get this early elimination. Really so weak.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
That's going to be it.
Yeah, Maryland should be able to confirm this point, flip it over in their favor, off a couple of great pickoffs there from the DPS.
Ashland don't confirm their opportunity in the fight. Keep in mind, Maryland has more sustain, right? They have the Ana, it has just a bigger heal throughput. You know, if you allow the Ana to get into position, and Paul was not really contested much, which meant that they were able to kind of survive. So Ashland not turning on the afterburners quickly enough to get into the backline is what ends up costing them. And now Maryland have a good setup here with his Pulse Bomb. Forces the Wraith early now. I mean, B1H so very vulnerable.
Yeah, and you can see they recognize that they're playing behind that cover just as hard as they can. They're going to TP out of point, though, see if they can maybe put a little pressure on the backline. Novasaur goes low. That is going to be B1H who finishes them off. Asuki finds Paul before they're able to commit the nano boost as well. That barrier has been pulled out, but Ashland will come away with this point.
I mean, that's just a trade in terms of ultimate resources, right? Confirming that fight. I mean, it's critical that Ashland. Ooh.
Oh no!
It's critical that Ashland win that fight though, because you know if that extended, because it was extended so long, if Maryland had won it outright, then they were going to be in a position to be in final fight. Now Ashland at least has an opportunity to point flips, give it another engagement.
Ooh, Speepa's already found Revelia, though. It's just going to be Memes keeping everyone alive. B1H is looking worse for the wear at the moment. GC Dance does fall as well, so point will be flipping back over in Maryland's favor as Varsity is picked off.
It's a clean engagement. I mean, it all starts off because Ashland unfortunately don't have their Tracer.
Yeah.
Varsity, you know, forced to kind of recall off the map, just without any blinks. You're not getting that kill. That's just a wasted Pulse Bomb from Speed.
Yeah.
Ashland, I mean, here, it's gonna be a fairly explosive fight in this next kind of head-to-head. Novasaur needs to, who's been good for it all game long, needs to find a wayward headshot here.
Be a nice Dragon Strike to try and split the team. He was able to find Varsity back. Paul with a nice sleep dart there. Sadbury has been committed by Maryland. They want to be able to stay on point and see if they can get these kills in a hurry. Revelia does a fall. And now B1H try to put some pressure on. Gets punched away by Tony, though. He eventually picked off. So Maryland at last fight territory.
Yeah, but that was a fight that cost Maryland everything. And, you know, Tony can't play as aggressively as they'd like by virtue of the fact that they don't have the Meteor Strike online right now, right? You cannot risk getting picked off here if you're the tank player. So you can see already a lot more passive from Maryland as they wait for that approach. Someone's going to have a touch. I assume Varsity will be the one, but yeah, there it is. So there's overtime brought into contention.
And now B1H looking for an opportunity to use this Death Blossom. Here comes the Meteor Strike as well. CCS in the meantime has found one. But Speed able to strike back, pick up their own. There comes another one as well. Speed is on an absolute tirade right now. B1H with a last moment Hail Mary to see if they can flip this point back in their favor. And in fact, they are starting to do just that. But the Nano Boost has been committed to Tony. It's a lot of damage that B1H has to chunk through. They don't have much health to speak of themselves. Tony is able to take out B1H, but it's going to be Cheesy Dance coming back in. They're able to put the finishing touches on Tony and flip the point.
They cannot stagger here. Maryland absolutely cannot contest this. Wait for the full response to get in. Otherwise, they're wasting their own time. It's a big pickup into memes, but this Lucy will be back pretty quick. Trying to kind of make this fight work. Our Maryland in last fight territory here. Winner of this one wins the round.
That was a big boop there from Cheesy Dance, but Nova Zor strikes back. That's one support down for each side. Maryland coming back in with force right here. Vasuki is out, so that's a lot of pressure on the back line that's been alleviated. So Paul and Lazy going to be able to keep this team up, and it is turning that way for the Maryland. Primed to take this point right here. Only one or two players left to deal with, and we'll be going to a map number 3 here on Lijiang Tower.
Really awkward setup from Ashland University, just overstaying, you know, in a couple of these fights.
Ooh,
extended skirmish is not really meaningful. It's a matter of time until this sort of ends.
Yeah,
certainly a marker. I will say that certainly a marker that the focus fire from both teams is a little bit suspect on this second round at least. Expect to see that shored up on the third point where we head to command center.
So it'll be back to a brawl here for Ashland. And I'm going to be curious to see what Maryland decides to do here, right? Because we have not seen a brawl look from them yet. So question is, Tony going to try and force this Doomfist or not?
Looks like we're gonna have the Ramatra. Obviously, we've seen a lot of Ramatra in the most recent memory, in sort of this matchup. Ashland, the one thing they have kind of strayed away from is running Ramatra, right? Cheesy Dance, a little bit, but realistically, they prefer the Reinhardt more frequently when running this brawl. However, we have seen Ramatra be so very viable and valuable in terms of the utility it's able to provide the team in these kind of matchups. So. A lot of pressure on Tony, certainly, but the upsides playing Ramatra are quite high.
Yeah, they certainly are. Right now, Tony just kind of waiting for the right moment to use that Nemesis form to try and push in and get a little damage in. They have to use it early, actually, because of how low they go, just to get that extra armor. But in the meantime, Ashland is able to sustain through that and allow B1H to get a pick on a Novazor. And with Tony falling right after that, Ashland does get awarded the first capture.
Yeah, this is one of the things too is that it's tough to kind of put pressure on. Which I kind of call Tony out specifically because again, Maryland are running a Hanzo Tracer, so a lot of damage, a lot of off angles, yeah, but not a lot of utility in terms of controlling the tempo of the fight. When May so very viable at that at B1H. I mean, already look at this, Tony just caught in a corner. No way for the team to support.
Yeah, that's a pretty unfortunate situation for them to be in, and that's a quick second fight one really before anybody has a chance to move through choke practically.
Yeah. And I mean, you're looking at this if you're Ashland, it's now about kind of extending the timer, right? Play into the Ant Matrix next. For Maryland, the question is, can you get Speep into an off angle to force everyone back and then open up Tony for that front line?
And here comes the Amp Matrix. Beautiful fire strike coming out from Cheesy Dance. Going to take down 2. Speed tries to get something done in the back line. Tony does find B1H. They have actually taken out both DPS now, so Meme's forced to use the sound barrier. Try to keep everyone alive so they can keep holding on to this point, but at the moment it's being backcapped. Tony has found one with the Annihilation. They're able to push forward and continue their tirade.
That is a tragic fight for Ashland. And I mean, credit to Tony for recognizing the opportunity, but Ashland University, they need to have a cleaner follow-up on, and this has been something that's been plaguing them this entire first map, right? The truth is you're up 2 and you allow a Ramatra when you have sound barrier to get 2 eliminations. It simply can't happen to that effect, and Maryland, a great start for them now in this round.
They're going to try and continue with a Dragon Strike into the high ground, but Tony once again forced to use that Nemesis form. A lot of damage comes in, but now that damage being taken back the way of Cheesy Dance. However, Varsity has a very high charge beam. The Blizzard is going to catch a couple. Maryland down 2. Ashland is able to take the point away from them. But the fight isn't over. Speed is actually able to pick onto Cheesy Dance. Lazy and Speed actually combined for a pair as well. So, point maybe Ashland's at the moment, but it's looking less and less likely it's going to remain that way.
Ashland is all over the place. They cannot focus a single target here. That's a big nano onto the Tracer and a combo with the Vortex there. Impressive stuff. Keeps the Symmetra from getting in to keep themselves alive. And that's going to be the fight over with Maryland coming back in. Chaos certainly juggled, but at least Maryland flipped the point before sort of that 85%. So there's an opportunity here to get a recontest if they lose the next fight. Now, Ashland commit to that fight. Again, they commit to a fight and they don't focus a single target. So Maryland are disappearing into the chaos, into sort of the storm of damage, and Ashland need to kind of coalesce as a team if they want to, bring this one back in their favor.
And to start things off with an Amp Matrix, though, to try and clear away a little room on point. That's going to allow Cheesy Dance to feel confident enough to charge right in. But Speed finds Revelia with a Pulse Bomb. So Meme's the only gonna be the only source of heals here for Cheesy Dance. And Tony is putting a lot of pressure on them right now, trying to just keep them at bay. Now we've got another Photon Barrier coming out from Varsity. But we're up to about 70% already, and Maryland is still getting the kills they need. Sure, Memes finds 1, but in the end, it's not going to be enough.
I mean, that's a disaster for Ashland. Credit to Maryland not falling prey to that utter chaos. I mean, Memes is caught entirely away from the rest of the squad. Can't give the speed to the Reinhardt to keep Cheesy Dance specifically, in play. Not out of the woods yet, though. This Annihilation is going to have a hard time staying alive through this Blizzard that B1A just going to bring to the table. Ashland, it's all about execution now. Can't be too isolated. Can't miss your target. Focus fire of critical importance.
Ooh, and Speep has put a lot of pressure on the backline. That is going to force out the sound barrier. Here comes the Blizzard, but Tony is already taken out by Cheesy Dance. Nova Zor strikes back, finds one support. There's going to be one support down for either side. Just Lucio's now keeping everybody alive on point, but Cheesy Dance has a shatter. They've been able to get a couple picks, and they will flip the point back in their favor.
I mean, now in the final fight, you can see Maryland. It's the last second swaps here. Paul with the nano boost expected to go to Tony just for survivability. The question is, how well can you dodge around the shatter? Cheesy Dance has the map on their Q button, really.
Yeah, it is almost all going to come down to this shatter, but Lazy able to find Revelia. Speed with a Pulse Bomb as well. Tony right now staying alive. That nano boost has already been committed, is expired. Cheesy Dance going down very, very low. Maryland going to be able to take the point back and take Lijiang Tower in 3.
Very impressive stuff there. Maryland understand their win condition. Ashland are looking for theirs. There's simply no recollection, no recognition either of the resources that Maryland have at play. They don't focus any individual targets, and rather than Ashland taking the advantage, they cede that over to their opposition. And I mean, when given space and time, right, the nano boosted target's such a big threat, and Tony and company are able to clean up wholesale.
Yeah, fantastic showing from Maryland. And I think, you talked a little bit about maybe the focus fire being kind of an issue for both of these squads. And I think we still saw it on Control Center. And to an extent, I think Maryland just able, like you said, to kind of play to their win conditions a little bit better. But I honestly don't see much of an improvement in terms of that focus fire, right? There were a lot of fights that went on very long, were long and dragged out. I mean, even Ashland actually got a lot of percentage, and I think that third or fourth fight, pushing themselves up to that 81%. So as we move into these maps, are going to take a little bit longer, that are going to be, let's say, not quite as hectic. I think that focus fire is going to come into play even more.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you're playing a composition that's designed, it doesn't matter what you're really playing. If you're not on the same page, and you allow value to be earned when none should be, you're going to lose fights, right? That's just the nature of the game. And tragically listen, Maryland, the one thing is they thrive in the chaos with their compositional setup. If they can get, a pick or two, trade 1-for-1, they have just a faster moving team, right? They can get back into play just a lot quicker. And after that first round where they weren't quite able to isolate individuals, weren't quite able to trade, once they got those trades going in the second and third round, they were able to turn that back in their advantage again off their speed, right? When if your tracer dies and the other team's May dies, the tracer's gonna be back in the fight just that much quicker. And at no point did Ashland really play to their strengths. And honestly, a little bit lucky to make that 99 to 100 on that third one. For map number 2, it's gonna have to be shored up tremendously. Again, the University of Maryland, just putting them to task.
Yeah, they certainly were. And I think outside of Night Market, right, where we saw a lot of really creative teleporter plays, in the absence of that, when we moved on to the next option, we really didn't see a whole lot of that. Ashland struggled a whole lot more, right? So I think there needs to be more that we see from them. Yes, I liked the sim. I thought these TP plays were great. I think was a lot of what won them the first map, but they weren't able to continue that success moving forward.
Indeed. Of course, now as we get into, just before we get into map number 2, the playoffs would not be possible, though, without the benefit of our sponsors giving us the ability to do so. And a big shout out to Extra Life. Play games to change kids' health, change the future. Click on the Twitch panel below to create your Extra Life team page. Without the support of our sponsors, we wouldn't have the benefit of this. So once again, a thank you to them.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it. And we've got a lot more sponsors we're going to be thanking throughout the broadcast, so just be sure to pay extra attention to them, give them your support as they are helping support the NACE Star League as well. But Kings Row, that's going to be the next location for us here at Lofon, and no real surprises here, and especially coming from Ashland, who I think they want to try and remove this kind of dive composition that we've seen coming out from Maryland and kind of play to their strengths, which are absolutely going to be this brawl that we've seen.
There is certainly that. I would also caution, though, that as of late, Kings Row has been showcasing more and more opportunities to have mobility composition show up here. We've seen a lot of Winston actually, and with kind of the highlight here in this particular instance, I think we also have to look outside the NACE Star League to gameplay tiers higher than it, right?
Right.
And we've seen Winston kind of make a play. We've seen aggression kind of in the thick of things. So I would not be surprised to kind of keep to see that mobility continue forward.
This is interesting. It looks like we aren't going to necessarily see a brawl composition come out. Has been a call for pause. Looks like there's a little there's some kind of tech issue with Discord right now, so hopefully we'll get that underway soon and we can get that sorted out, figured out here relatively quickly tonight. So yeah, I mean, this is fascinating, right? Like what you said has really shown up here. There's no Reinhardt to be found. This does not look like your traditional brawl at all here on Kings Row.
I mean, as of the last little while, Kings Row is strayed away from Reinhardt just in general. There's been, I would say, the two main compositions that I've personally expected to see on this one from higher tier teams is Ramatra as sort of the core brawl style, and then the mobility. Usually we see a lot of Winston. We haven't seen a ton of Winston from either of these teams. In general, Tony obviously has mostly gone over to the Doomfist when required to play, high tempo style. So that may be a comfort pick, but as we kind of load in, I also think if you kind of see the Diva, right? The Diva is sort of an acknowledgement that Winston is a possibility here. Winston, sort of struggles in that head-to-head matchup against Diva if you try and take just a point-blank approach, which, with what Maryland is kind of want to do, has been kind of their modus operandi at this time, right? Just kind of have Tony go in full aggression. And you can see Ashland kind of recovering and making that call before the map even starts.
And I think it's some of what you said too about the, you know, the D.Va matchup versus the Winston kind of holds true for the Doomfist as well, right? Because the D.Va is a very defensive pick as far as the dive tanks are concerned. You know, just given the amplification matrix and how valuable it can be. In addition, I mean, having those boosters on a 4-second cooldown as well means that wherever Tony decides to go, well, D.Va's just going to be able to peel. They're just going to be able to get there relatively quickly, provide support, maybe knock Tony away a little bit, throw them off their course when they're trying to do a punch. So I really like this this pick that Cheesy Dance has come out with.
Yeah, I expect to see sort of Varsity and Revelia play as a 2-player kind of roaming setup. And then, as you said, Cheesy Dance playing that true kind of peel style. Interesting that we're getting an Ashe, actually. Okay. Over to the Tracer instead. Oh, a near mirror, actually.
We have Tony on the D.Va as well, so this will be very interesting. It's I think it'll be a pretty this should be a pretty defensive kind of play style, right? And we can see both these teams are actually moving very, very slowly right now. They don't want to give the opportunity for the other to find an errant pick or find somebody out a little bit too far. Speed does dive in pretty aggressively, so a little extra damage onto Tony, and that's going to give Maryland this high ground, or rather onto Cheesy Dance. So having this high ground from now, Maryland can stage is going to be pretty useful, but Cheesy Dance dropping or going up above. Tracer battle continuing into the Mega Room. Novazor able to find them, and now Lazy is gone as well. So each team suffering a little bit of a blow here. Remains to be seen which is going to matter more, but just given how far Ashland has to go, Maryland might be in a better position here.
Getting a chance to slow down. Right now, I mean, Ashland have to just keep contesting the objective and then try and build memes up to this nano boost. You need to get this one online and just to kind of blow up the back line. Blow up Maryland's support line especially.
And both of these teams are actually getting close to a self-destruct as well. So again, kind of the you know, the amount of time that this fight is going to take is increasing even more, just given that get out of jail free card will be there. But nice pulse bomb going to be delivered to B1H, and now the nano boost in response onto Cheesy Dance. See if they can find some damage in the back line, but they bite off a little bit more they can chew. Anti-date from Memes does hit a couple. Is going to take out Lazy, but in the end, Maryland is going to come away with this point.
Slow and steady here for Maryland. Don't overcommit to the setup. Allow Ashland to panic and kind of overstep their bounds. We saw that nano boost onto Cheesy Dance was frankly full HP. Kind of not necessarily unnecessary, but you could see Cheesy Dance, I don't think was necessarily expecting it to happen at that particular moment. Was forced to use the boosters chase into the backline very aggressively, and you know, Tony just holds defense matrix the entire time, so nullifies the validity of that resource. And Maryland will get onwards to the second phase. So Ashland has not even really been given an opportunity to kind of use their big ultimates in their defense yet.
No, they haven't. So that's going to be nice for them to have moving forward. But with Cheesy Dance getting D-Mac to speed finding them relatively quickly, Maryland can just continue to push this card through, despite the Kitsune Rush coming out as well.
Yeah, I mean, just that was a combo play onto Cheesy Dance. A combination of the Tracer in close, the Hanzo headshot, and of course a Discord Orb from Lazy, plus the 5 Orb from range. We saw, what is it, 650 HP evaporated to 0 basically instantly.
Yeah, that's just a tremendous amount of damage coming in. And there's that focus fire, right, that we needed to see. It did come out then. And this time from Maryland. So good to see that adaptation as we're getting set now for the what could be the final fight here in the third. Ashland definitely needs to stop things now. So we're going to let loose with a Dragon Strike, though. This is going to be Fasugi who lands the first blow, though. So Maryland might have to back up here a little bit. Novazor seeing if they can get one more pick to try and even things out. Continue moving this cart. But Ashland, on the other hand, as well, just hasn't put the pressure on in these late moments where they needed to. And unfortunately, Novazor going to get caught out by the self-destruct. So Ashland will find a way to hold.
Unfortunately, the dash does not get quite the high ground.
Yeah.
Another pulse bomb from Speed. It's going to go wide, and Maryland invest quite heavily into that fight. Without ever really being in control of the map. It's going to slow things down here for Maryland as they make a switch. Lazy off the Zen now to a break, just a little bit more mid-fight brawl in these closer quarters. Ashland are in a pretty good position, though. Even as Maryland tries to engage, I expect to see the Dragon Strike, or they're going to use it right away. that's perhaps not ideal, and Maryland recognized that. They just kite away,
Yeah.
keep themselves alive for another moment.
Ooh, but Paul's going to be hunted down furiously by Cheesy Dance. And now Lazy caught kind of in a bad position. They're just going to try and die as quick as they can. Maybe take someone with them, which they're able to do. But another nice hold here from Ashland.
That was really close to being a pretty terrible fight for Ashland. Instead, they turn it on its head and actually get the D-Mech onto Tony, too. Tony's going to switch, you know, just regain mech because they are not close enough to self-destruct. The overall thing there, I mean, the nice edge that Ashland are operating on, if that Dragon Strike gets kited successfully, they're left without anything, and Maryland come back in. But instead, they follow up on the players that were, you know, leaving. Paul gets left out, and they're able to kind of fight in close. So really well done there by Ashland to turn the fight in their favor.
And now they're going to have several ultimates to work with this fight as well, and Maryland's still lagging behind. So with a minute left to go, this is going to be a tough ask for Maryland, but Tony able to get 2 picks right off the bat as both DPS down for Ashland. So question remains now, do they just give this up, or are they going to try and use the sound barrier onto Cheesy Dance to see if they can stay alive? Respawns have come back in. That's going to be a nice pulse bomb, though. D-Mac comes in onto Cheesy Dance. They shouldn't be taken care of relatively quickly here. Actually, the support has been tremendous, and in fact, Maryland able to strike back, or is able to find memes. Here comes Masuki, though, with a big pulse bomb. Ashland turning this fight around here, but now the ultimates have built up here for Maryland.
Really casual approach from Maryland on the reset. They think that they're out of the fight. They think that fight's won. They kind of just let Aspeep just idles into a pilot and into the Tracer. Sorry, into Revelia and the Kiriko, and gets taken out. And then after that, Maryland don't focus at all. They just, you know, kind of disappear. And they give an opportunity for the Tracer to get in the backline. A big pulse bomb, but then the cleanup comes right after. Ooh, that one clip would be disastrous.
Yeah, that would have. But instead, the rally has been committed. Nano boost as well onto Tony. Is going to be the last second to make something happen here. Overtime has been triggered. Masuki deep into the backlines with just 15 HP. Maryland can chase them down. That'll be a very tough blow for them to recover from. And in the meantime, Masuki just isn't in the fight. So Tony has free reign, and they've already found 2 picks. B1H now taking a lot of damage. Reveille being chased down. Doofus should be able to finish them off here in a couple of seconds. 1 player remaining. That will be Maryland finding third.
What a struggle for Maryland, though, and that cost them everything. Chalk up another minute and a half onto the clock, and you know, that's not really a whole heck of a lot of time. Ashland 2 fights maybe away from draining the time bank entirely. Considering how much map control Maryland, you know, had over the first point, they've sort of let it evaporate on the second, and a lot of credit to Ashland for just making these fights really slow.
And Speep, actually, who's now on the Cassidy, has found 1, but B1H striking back now with an overclock. They are low health, so they're gonna have to play this kind of carefully, and that means they're only gonna really be satisfied with 1 pick. Speed finds Masuki, though, with a nice magnetic grenade. Now Tony feels a little more confident to push forward. They don't have to worry about their backline nearly as much. Push B1H back. They don't take a ton of damage, though, but it's a little bit of progress on the cart, and they have rounded this corner. So now Ashland has to fall back and see if they can maintain it in a different position. But Cheesy Dance is going very low once again. Tony caught in a bad place as well, but Speed is able to find memes once again. Because a Kitsune rush on point. Masuki down, though, and now Lazy has another rally, and with a giant shield, able to do a lot more protection for their team. Maryland gonna be able to walk this one in at the end with time to spare.
Oh, what a fight from Maryland. They, by rights, had no way into that. Just catching their opponent well off guard. Ashland, I don't think we're expecting that aggression from their opponent. And Maryland, I mean, where you least expect it, right? When the chaos gets, when it gets way chaotic, that's where Maryland seems to excel the best. Yeah, Ashland just caught on the back foot in that entirety of the last fight. Playing second fiddle a lot of the time, right? I mean, the Kitsune rush delayed after a player had been eliminated, and then you know, that just buys time again for Maryland to make their way back into the thick of things.
Yeah, very well played by them. I also like the approach they took kind of in the last third of that point as well, right? They just used Doomfist and the kind of the CC that comes with them to just push Ashland back, right? Take away that second corner from Ashland. It just kind of forced them to fight behind the boxes there at the very end. So getting that kind of map control is also fantastic, I think, from Maryland, and a big part of their success there at the end.
I will also say that Maryland changed their style ever so slightly. Speep goes over to the Cassidy, away from the Tracer, and it's a single change, but it meaningfully has an impact on the style. No longer is Maryland playing sort of a pseudo dive mobility composition where you have two flankers in Tony and Speep. Instead, it's sort of you have Tony take the brunt of the aggression, which you can focus on healing, especially Paul, and that opens up the DPS to kind of just play in the close quarters combat and make life so much more difficult for the supports of Ashland. So one small change, but one that ends up being a massive difference for Maryland.
And once again, a quick shout out to Extra Life, one of our sponsors. Thank you for helping make the Daystar League possible in the playoffs that we are witnessing right now. Maryland, once again, we're seeing kind of a slow play style come out, right? TCDS again, going to be playing much more defensively on this Diva. Really looking to just try and catch someone out. With Novazor asleep right now, this could be devastating. But the anti-nade comes in. Both Lazy and Novazor are going to be hit by it. And now Vasuki trying to put some pressure on them on the high ground. But forced to actually use the recall very early there. So they're not going to have quite the staying power that they want to have. In the meantime, though, Tony has found B1H. They've got less to worry about, too. And they're setting their sights on the rest of the team now. Have found Reveille and Memes kind of in the front, but Nanoboost has been committed onto Cheesy Dance now, who is asleep. Are going to be woken up, though, and now they've set their sights on the high ground, but unable to put the pressure on them that they wanted, and that Nanoboost has expired now. So that's a big opportunity, a big moment lost, but B1H has swapped over to the Widow and finds Tony. This could be a turning point here, LaFon.
I mean, all that pressure onto Tony was because Cheesy Dance were taking so much aggression on the high ground, the supports could not keep them up. And yeah, now B1H. I mean, listen, give the player a hit scan, give them some time, they will find your head.
Yeah, this has been a tremendous showing from them, but the rally is still online. A weak touching point, though, at the moment for Maryland. Tony has found B1H, so that threat has been neutralized, but it might be too little too late. The Lazy has something to say about that, as they have taken out Cheesy Dance. They actually turned this fight around.
Unbelievable stuff there. This is what I was talking about. Maryland on their I mean, the third point, right? That final fight, it continues to be an element of that. Ashland, they fall into the chaos. They just do not coalesce around each other, and the expectations is that the fight's over, right? No one thinks that a team is going to be back in that down 3 players, but Maryland is that team. Maryland will make you fight for every inch. And Ashland now, with a quick change over to the Winston, are in one last 90 seconds of the game.
The Nanoboost have been committed to Tony as well, so they have a lot of health with him, but not for long. We're going to get slept. Novazor, in the meantime, though, does find B1H. So again, this is more time off the clock. Ashley doesn't want to take this too aggressively right now. They don't want to let a bad situation spiral out of control here before they have more help.
The thing is, with the tanks staying alive as much as they are, they're just taking attention away, and that just opens up for Novazor and Speed to fade into the backline and get those pickoffs from range, right? I mean, B1H is already so very low.
Yeah, and again, right, the moment they get hit by the F, they find more damage. They peek a little bit and they take more damage. That's a big anti-nade as well. Tony sees it, dives in, is able to find one. They're going to be hit by an anti-nade and slept, but the damage comes in. They should be able to get out relatively quickly, and the Bob is there to kind of cover that disengagement as well. That allows them to pick up Memes.
And Tony critically, trusting that the team is there to back them up, does not use the Meteor Strike. Now play on, like, extremely aggressively here in the final fight. And even with this nano, for Ashland University, you apply it to Cheesy Dance. Cheesy Dance cannot have that same level of all-in aggression that you'd like to have for this final fight.
We are going to see them dive into that back line, but it's going to be a nice boop away from Lazy to keep them at bay. So Nanoboost not getting the value it wants to now, and here comes that extra aggressiveness that we want to see out of Tony. They're looking to see if they can finish off Memes. They're able to do. 5 seconds left to go here. Ashland on the back foot. Hardly anybody left alive. That's going to be a first point hold here on Kings Row for the University of Maryland.
It all comes down to that one recontest from University of Maryland. Right as the point was looking to flip over. And, I mean, Ashland just not expecting their opponent to go for that fight, right? And they're left lacking. They're caught, out. And Maryland at match point as a result.
Yeah, and what a showing from them. I really like the way that they have played, especially this last map, right? It was done very, very well. The way that they were able to kind of push through adversity at times and also hold on to the points through adversity has been fantastic. So we're going to throw it to a short break, but before that, once again, a quick shout out to our sponsors for helping bring this season to life. That is going to be CDW, Extra Life, Duncan, Corsair, Mavix, Monster, and BetterHelp. So thank you all so much for helping make the NACE Star League a reality this year. We'll be back very soon with map number 3. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the broadcast. If you're just joining us, it is Ashland University and University of Maryland, both sporting 6-1 records. Going head-to-head here in the round of 16, and currently Maryland up 2-0.
Maryland also setting the style of gameplay that we're getting into this one, right? Drawing out into sort of an awkward setup a lot of the time, and at times Ashland has fallen prey to that, right? They've kind of chased down, gotten lulled into a false sense of security at times. They've over-chased fights. The focus has not been there, and Ashland has unfortunately found themselves now in the whole 0-2. Their run kind of going here. They need a reverse sweep in this one, and Maryland are looking to heat up as they continue forward.
Well, Maryland is going to hope that the answer to their prayers is going to be Route 66. So a map that we haven't seen in quite a while, LaFon. I'm excited to get a chance to see what both these teams are going to bring to the table. Of course, now that we are into a new season, all sorts of maps are open here in Overwatch that haven't been for a while. So happy to see this one once again.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, as we get into the game itself, remember that we head into escort. It is loser pick for this one. So Ashland University have selected Route 66. It's been a while. As you said, it's been a while since we've seen this one. But what that means is that, I think there's been pocket picks that are now available on this map, because the expectation has changed, has evolved, right? I think in the past we would have seen a lot of poke on this map, right? Sigma has been an opportunity. Mobility again, dive, right? It was kind of an option. I don't know that I necessarily have any expectations for what compositions to see directly. I wouldn't be surprised if we get dive to continue. I think the most outlandish one would be like a true head-to-head brawl. But even then, a Ramatra can absolutely find value on this map. So while perhaps the least of the three styles, I would not be astonished if it came to pass.
Neither would I, and I'd also wouldn't be surprised if we see a Sigma come out, right? We haven't seen a poke from either of these times today, and at least in recent history, a lot of the third maps we've seen have been Circuit Royale, right? Where that is kind of the bread and butter of that map. So definitely a lot of options, and that's honestly one of the reasons I love Route 66 as well. Is this map is very open to kind of interpretation by either of the teams. What do they feel best coming out on? And it will be Ashland on defense first, and we do in fact see Cheesy Dance on the Sigma. So Maryland, now the big thing for them is going to be trying to close this distance, close that gap as quickly as they can, and put pressure onto whoever they find.
It's interesting that we're seeing the double hit scan come from Ashland, Varsity on the Varsity. Freshly nerfed, I should add, has the magnetic grenade reduced. It only does one, oh my goodness, like 120 I think now. And on top of that, the 200 HP rather than 225. So two critical changes actually for the dueling capability of the Cassidy in close.
And that's certainly something Vasuki's going to have to be aware of, going to have to be worried about. And as well, I think that means that Tony has another target, right? Typically, I don't think you would have seen maybe a dive come out onto the Cassidy quite so quickly, but it's certainly much more of an option here. And as we get the first dive coming in from Tony, it's just going to be a soft one. They just want to take a little bit of pressure off of the rest of the back line and help the team kind of move the cart forward. This engagement might be a little bit bigger here from Tony. Yeah, we do in fact see the bubble go down, so they want to try and stay a little bit longer, but that focus fire comes in, knocks them down, and in the meantime, Lazy is actually able to find a pick onto Memes. B1H does strike back and find them, though, in the end, and B1H actually coming alive here on that Ash, finds Speep on the flank as well, so a lot of cart progress has been made. In fact, it's still going, but Ashland is in control of this fight at the moment.
That's going to be a handshake to kind of reset. Both teams will recollect themselves, lick their wounds to fight a better day. Big man over top.
Yeah, Tony wants to stay in here as long as they can. Novazor in the meantime has found Vasuki. So that's again another threat been eliminated. Now that Discord Orb on top of TZNS, they're actually sustaining through it quite well, even with Reveille going down. But the Primal Rage has found B1H. And it's just going to be Memes and Cheesy Dance left alive. Memes drops onto the point, but they're going to be taken care of quickly. And that point going to be captured by Maryland.
Not even that expensive a fight either. I mean, Nano Boost and Primal. It's something you prefer to have only have used one of, but in the grand scheme of things, it gets you a pretty hefty time bank on second, so it's a trade more than worthwhile. For Ashland, it's now about controlling the map geometry. You have a lot of high ground here, but actually that is a disastrous pickup on Tavaski. Ashland need to get into position, and they need to be able to actually take a fight in close. They need to be able to use these resources.
Oh wow.
These extended pickoffs are really disastrous for Ashland University, critically because it doesn't matter if Speep dies, right? The payload is still going to move the entire way. Speep is a very fast-moving character, and it's exacerbated, of course, if Speep doesn't die, and in this case, Speep doesn't. So Ashland are going to come out, they're going to dump a bunch of resources, and then Lazy's just going to press Transcendence and mitigate all of it. It's a bad place to be.
Yeah, this is going to be rough. And Reveille already going down. Vasuki falling as well. Ashland is just falling apart at the seams here right now. They need to change something big, and they need to change it fast.
Well, they need to take a fight as a team. They can't just keep walking in isolated 1v1. Speep is feasting on the individual members of Ashland University. Ashland, who's been so strong as a team in the past, trying to take duels here and just losing out.
Yeah, and Spipa proving to be more than up to the challenge here. And look at this. I mean, they just they're forced to give away that point, right? Because of just how hard it's been for them to fight as one team. And again, we see a pickoff. Paul's able to find Vasuki once again. They in fact trade, but still, that's a lot of damage. That's not great for Ashland, who desperately needs to stop this cart. They have committed nano boost onto Cheesy Dance, but now they're going to be forced away as well. And Lazy and Tony follow them. That Discord orb causing a lot of problems. Cheesy Dance still not finding a place where they can feel safe and start to dive again. Novazor does fall, but now a lot of pressure being put on Tony. Pulse Bomb lands again. Eames goes down, and this card has barely even stopped Lafon.
Yeah, I mean, the Pulse Bomb doesn't even have a chance to detonate. Memes dies so fast. And these isolated skirmishes are consistently going in Maryland's favor. Ashland need to set up an actual, a true engagement with their resources. They only have one opportunity left, and the big problem here is that no matter what they stack, it's going to be a nano Winston into a primal. I mean, this is basically burdens of this fight.
Yeah, the rally is out, but the Discord orb onto Revelia means they do not last long, even despite all that extra healing, all that extra sustain. Tony takes a lot of damage, was forced, able to drop behind the cart. Lazy finds Memes as well. The flank Yada coming out now as well. The Discord orb being put on everybody, trying to keep them from pushing out onto point. Tony continuing to find value. Vasuki is taken out by a sonar arrow as well. Another pulse bomb comes out from Sweep, and again, the damage is done before the pulse bomb even hits. GZ's going to be the last player left standing here, and they will not be there for long. Almost 3 minutes on the clock here for Maryland.
Tremendous stuff from Maryland, and I mean, their game plan early in Control has finally come to fruition here, or I suppose has exploded in effectiveness in this third map, up 2-0. It has been successful all the way throughout. However, the difference now is that Ashland are not even being able to contest. They're not being able to trade in these isolated duel. Speep has been just taking over the game one fight at a time, and now Tony's right there with them. So in general, I mean, Maryland, it feels somewhat inevitable that this is going to be a closeout here. Keep in mind, Ashland University picked Route 66 and just utterly without presence on the second and third point.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even really hardly see second point at all, right? You know, and they had a great composition for it. They had the opportunity, I think, to try and push out and take some of this map control, which you highlighted, right? But they weren't even able to do that. They were forced back just to that final moment, to that final little cave opening on the high ground. And even then, they weren't able to do a whole lot. That's just how oppressive Maryland has been so far.
Last opportunity here now for Ashland University. It's time to put the rest of the series out of your mind. Just fight this round, one round at a time, one step at a time, in fact, for Ashland. It's going to be a very aggressive setup here. Trying to put a lot of eggs in one basket. B1H going to be the recipient of a lot of resources here, and they'll need to make the most of it to try and get this one going.
I do like the Echo pick here. Of course, Speep is going to be causing them a lot of problems, and when Speep is the one on hit scan, that's going to make things very difficult for anyone in the air. But they are going to have a pocket with Revelia. So again, I do like what I'm seeing here so far from Ashland. It's just going to depend on the execution now. The card has made a bit of progress, but we really also haven't seen a big engagement yet from Tony. But here they come. They're going to dive into the backline, try and cause a little bit of damage. Adaptive shields have to be used as well, but they weren't actually able to get a whole lot. But again, not much damage was done. And in the meantime, Speep has found B1H. Dance does take down Lazy. Revelia might not be able to get that res either, so that's going to be a little bit more time off the clock. And oh, now with the D-Mech onto Cheesy Dance too, this is rough.
Yeah, Cheesy Dance went very aggressive for that elimination, and unfortunately there's just no backup. The team did not rotate with them, so Tony plays Gatekeeper, and then Cheesy Dance is caught out. Right? There's no one to keep them in mech, and they'll trade that fight.
Well, they do find Novazor.
They do. They're trading the fight in their favor, and they get the remech too, so Cheesy Dance now back in the engagement.
Yeah, and B1H is actually able to get a little bit of map control as well. They're able to hunt down Speep, who just been hit by an anti-nade too. So, yeah, Ashland able to get a bit of card progress here. But again, what Maryland has done well, I think, is kind of mitigate their losses to an extent. Ooh, but this could be bad. Yeah.
Still, I mean, Maryland investing. Tony uses the minefield to slow things down.
Yeah, now with the... Yeah, that forces the nano onto Cheesy Dance as well. Oh, that's going to be a big sleep onto Tony, though, and Ashland was able to sustain through all that. And Tony does not make it out. So, Ashland will be able to get the first point here. Maybe not as quick or as flawless as Maryland did, but still a very healthy time bank.
Yeah, this is the impressive stuff. The other thing, too, is they're keeping Maryland from really being in the fight, right? Look at the resource bank for Maryland, especially Novazor, who was a carry player at multiple times in the first two maps. Very far away from the blade, and a lot of this, of course, is the fact that B1H is on Echo. It's tough for the Genji to duel them in the air, but nonetheless, a lot of credit to Ashland for picking a composition that invalidates one of the players on Maryland.
Voltimate's coming up, though, for both sides. Speed going to use the attack visor early. They're going to try and put some pressure on the B1H. They're forced to use their duplicate, but even that is going to be able to save them as Tony is able to burst them down with some help from the rest of the team. That's a big tool out of the toolbox here now for Ashland. They're forced to use the remech as well to stay alive and stay in this fight. Novazor does have the blade now. This is a potential win condition for them. The card's still making a little bit of progress, though. A lot of pressure being put onto Novazor, but meantime, Speed does find B1H, so now this blade can go off. The rally is committed as well. Novazor should be able to finish off this fight to help with the rest of the team and put a stop to this card.
Man, that was expensive for both teams. Just press Q, and the team with the last few wins. That was, of course, Novazor's blade. So the one critical thing is Lazy was able to keep their sustain, the rally the latest, right? They were able to, you obviously saw that Novazor was not quite able to be taken down by the focusing beam, and that's because of that overhealth that was stacked up. So quick thinking by Lazy, and they get moving. So
now Cheesy Dance actually diving into the back line where Tony just left. So a lot of damage goes in, but they're unable to convert it into any kills. The sustain is there. And now Tony forced to use the self-destruct again to get back into the mech. But Cheesy Dance has a one-track mind and a nano boost behind them. So they want to try and punch a hole through all of that health and all of the sustain that Maryland is putting in right now, but they're just unable to. B1H eventually finds Novazor again. Now Speed has attack visor up once more, but everybody is hiding pretty effectively from it, and those who aren't are able to put enough pressure on him to force him back down. So Visor doesn't get a whole lot of value. Here comes the self-destruct as well. So now they've kind of gotten that out of the way. B1H has also duplicated the Diva as a self-destruct online, and the card is continuing to make progress here. Now Speed, kind of the backline of Maryland, is off in a bad place, especially considering Tony is gone. Not going to be able to add any protection to them. We are moments away, honestly, from Ashland capturing second point as well. So big difference, though, is this took one more fight than Ashland did, and it was a long one too.
The thing though to give credit to Ashland is that they were able to keep the fight moving, keep the payload moving as the fight went on. So they kind of rescued a little bit of their time back. It won't be as great as Maryland, of course, but at least gives them an option here on this third phase. Cheesy Dance gets caught out a little bit too far. That's going to give Maryland an opportunity to hold close, hold that setup.
And that means Revelia might have to put their resources in different places as well. They might not be able to pocket B1H like they want to, because they need that damage boost to try and get Cheesy Dance back into this mech as quickly as they possibly can. So yeah, we can even see B1H kind of caught out on their own. Revelia forced to drop back onto them and use the Valkyrie as well. But in the meantime, Tony finds Vasuki too, so there's damage has already been done. That's a big anti-nade though onto Novazor, so Ashland has an opportunity here once again. Paul goes down. B1H now able to get that focus fire in. The rally from Lazy keeping him up for the moment. The focusing beam not going to be able to do anything. Here's some self-destruct from Tony too to try and clear some space away. He's putting a lot of pressure on him again, but B1H has a one-track mind. They said Lazy is mine, and they take them and send them back to spawn. The DMAC comes in onto Tony as well, so little under 2 minutes left to go here. Ashland is primed. They just need to win one more fight, Levon.
Yeah, they're in pretty good position. That being said, Maryland is not upset with how that fight went. The payload was kept moving the whole time, or was stymied the whole time.
Wow.
This is not a good trade. This is not a good trade for Ashland.
No, it is not. They keep trading, which is only going to benefit Maryland right here. Tony has very little health, but they are able to sustain through it. And B1H is actually going to be forced to back away here. Biotic Grenade has to go in for memes to keep them alive as well.
Ashland have the tools to close this fight out, right? I mean, it's going to be an ult on from them, and Maryland don't have a response, but time is of the essence here. This fight needs to be very quick.
Yes, it does. Here comes a duplicate on a B1H. They're going to see if they get this Bramble up just as quickly as they can. Damage now going into Tony. Dragon Strike as well. It's going to be B1H with a Primal Rage, so that finds both supports. Absolutely huge focus coming out from B1H. TZN's able to pick one off as well. It's going to be less than a minute on the clock, but now Ashland is primed to put finishing touches on this attack. The Nano Boost committed on B1H as well with that focusing beam, just deletes anybody who gets close to point. So minute on the clock for Ashland, but 3:19 will be Maryland's time bank.
And now that first point becomes so critical here for Ashland as they head to the attack for the second time this map. Keep in mind that they already struggled on the first half of this game, right? With the first point, it took them a while. It took them a while to really get into play, and they only have realistically one fight now. So Maryland, I mean, it comes down to this. It comes down to the first fight. If Maryland can get that hold going, then they'll be in position to shut out Ashland University and complete the series. And it really does all revolve around this attack run from Ashland.
This is their life on the line here, LaFon, in the round of 16. There's Ashland, no stranger to being here. They did make it to the round, finished top 16 last semester here in the Naystar League, hoping to make it a little further, but the Gatekeeper of Maryland looking very, very tough right now.
Looks like there's going to be no adaptation from either squad. The map as it ended will be as it starts. Speed the only difference maker, going on a Widow instead of an Ashe. It's a very greedy pick actually from Speep.
Yeah. Because both Cheesy Dance and B1H are likely going to have their sights set on them.
They'll have one opportunity. They'll have one opportunity to take B1H down. If they miss it, they'll be in for a really rough position.
And now Cheesy Dance has kind of secured this first corner, this first high ground for Ashland University. Speep is on the, actually, no, back up to the high ground now. Able to find a shot onto B1H. Maybe does a little damage there, but so much comes into them. They're down to single digits practically. And Cheesy Dance, B1H, everybody just descends, recognizing there's blood in the water. Paul able to get a sleep there at the last moment. Tony tries to escape, but instead they sacrifice themselves for Paul. Remains to be seen, though, if they're going to be able to escape. No, they will not. Huge fight win for Ashland.
That was that greed I was talking about from Speep, right? If you don't get that shot off, it opens up B1H to really get into position to actually deal damage. And with the pocket that's coming in, well, from Revelia, right? That's you're not likely to keep them in check for long. So switch over to a Tracer now, just for better mid-fight potential.
Oh, wow. Tony is absolutely deleted. Focus fire coming in from B1H is tremendous, but they're going to fall. And so it's now going to be a 4v4 here. TC Dance does find Nova Zor. This is University of Maryland just unable to stay in this fight. A nice Biotic Grenade does take down Memes, but it's going to be too little too late. The Nano Boost, though, committed on Lazy. That's going to be a lot that they have to deal with here. But TC Dance does have the self-destruct if they need to put the finishing touches on this, because the resupports are going to be coming in quick. Here is Tony, as a matter of fact, almost right on cue. And Paul has found Revelia. B1H hunts them down, though, as they've gone significantly off a point. Now the rally from Lazy. They try to chase B1H down again, but the Remac finds Speep as well. TC Dance out of mech, though. Everybody there from Maryland, and they stop the cart right at the brink of second.
The heroes there for Maryland, the support line, Paul and Lazy playing well away from each other.
Switching sides.
Truly, Lazy just the cycling there of utility with the Nano Boost, of course, from Paul, but the cycling utility to keep themselves alive despite the Pocket Diva in their face. Just a tremendous showcase in the rally in the very end to chase down B1H, who was a big threat. And Ashland University, I mean, how many maps have we seen this now? where they think the fight's won. They kind of take it a little too casually, and then Maryland are right back in the thick of things, right back in punishing them. And it's not any individual. On the previous maps, Speep was the one who kind of took up a big pick, and then Tony as well on King's Row. But Lazy now multiple times has come in clutch for Maryland. And Ashland, they're wondering where that game went. They're wondering where that fight went. And now, Maryland 1 point away from completing the 3-0 to move onwards.
I want to take a moment to highlight Lazy even more, right? Because we, I don't think we've really talked too much yet about the Brig buff. And when we saw Lazy go over to the Brig, which I believe happened in King's Row, there were question marks in my head about it. But it has proved very, very valuable here for this squad, and I don't think Ashland has quite respected it so far.
Speaking of respect, of the Junkrat from Speed. Perhaps a little bit of lack thereof.
Yeah.
Is going to have the upper hand here, certainly.
Yeah, I think Speed is really trying to... Yeah, you're trying to play for the Riptire here. And of course spam damage, just lucky spam to take somebody out. But the Riptire could be devastating. That is if they get it online, is TCDS is able to hunt them down. Paul falls as well, and yeah, maybe this was not the right choice here for Maryland, as Ashland gets a beautiful, very, very forward hold here. And they're going to need to do this. They have to hold very aggressively.
Experiment over. Soup goes over to Tracer. Now you can actually set up a dive, though, for Maryland, right?
And we do see it coming. That's going to be a pretty heavy one, but Tony almost picked out there. They're able to drop down eventually, and they do get the DMAC as well onto TC Dance. That is absolutely huge. So this card going to be able to make quite a bit of progress here. Yeah, that's going to be a quick death and reset here from Ashland. This is their last chance to stay alive in this tournament.
Absolutely unreal performance from the support line for Maryland. They keep Tony goes down to 20 HP in that fight, and yet is able to be kept alive by Lazy and Paul. So now, last second changes. Vasky over to a Reaper, but it might be a little too late.
Oh, that's going to be a very big eat coming out from Cheesy Dance, removing that pulse bomb from the equation. That was definitely a big win condition here. And Lazy going down too. Ashland has an opportunity to hold, but they need to keep Cheesy Dance alive. They need to keep them in mech. Even if they win this fight, they need to stay in mech so that they're ready to go for the next one. But Maryland is actually backing off and playing this very, very carefully, very, very slow. They have built up the nano boost now. Novazor has the Dragon Strike too, so they can use this to zone. Yep, that's going to be the nano boost now committed onto Tony, who's able to find memes. Revelia has used the Valkyrie, but they're not going to be able to get in for any kind of a res situation because there's just so much damage, so much going into them. And now Ashland really on their final feet here as Novazor has found one. Cheesy Dance is able to get the remech at the last moment though, but there's not a whole lot of health. Maryland has the picks. The goal is right in front of them, and now it's just a nano boosted B1A standing in between them. They're not able to get the duplicate out online, and that will be Maryland punching their ticket to the round of 8 here in the NACE Star League.
What a performance from them. A 3-0 scoreline as well. Keep in mind, the middle of the pack team, at least by the seeding, they come out with a statement victory here over their opponents in Ashland. Lazy, the final highlight of this round. And Lazy was a difference maker in this one. Well, tremendous performance overall. And the playoffs are just starting at that. Jungle, we have so much more action to go, and Maryland, they look to be a team that is making a genuine play, for the upper echelons of the playoff bracket.
They absolutely are, because we talked about it before. We've seen Ashland many times over the course of the season, and it has been steady improvement from this squad. They looked great in the last chance qualifier. Sorry to see them go here, but the story of the day is going to be Maryland. So big congratulations to them coming through in the end. We're going to throw it to a short break, but right after that, we'll have an interview with one of the players from Maryland. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the broadcast. We got the interview coming up here in just a moment. But once again, let's take a moment to thank our sponsors. So again, I'm going to just list them all out here real quick and may focus on one or two. But CDW, Extra Life, Duncan, Corsair, Mavix, Monster, and BetterHelp. Lots of organizations behind the scenes helping make this happen. So once again, big thank you to everyone involved there.
And of course, shout out to Mavix, an official partner of the NA Star League, and was featured as one of the most comfortable gaming chairs on sites like Tom Hardware and Tech Radar. Click on the Twitch panel below to get $55 off your next purchase. Mavix, the future of gaming.
And I want to just take a moment because Mavix was kind enough to send some of the casters one of their chairs, and I got the Mavix M5, and it is fantastic. I immediately swapped it out for my old gaming chair. It is incredibly comfortable. One of the big things I like is just it's a mesh chair, right? I haven't had a mesh chair in a while, and I don't know. I run hot. I'm always too warm, and it's just a very breathable chair as well. I get a nice breeze, kind of breeze into my back, which is fantastic. So love them. Thank you all very much for helping support the NA Star League.
And of course, just a secondary reminder, you can click the panel below to get $55 off your order. So once again, thank you to Mavix. And with that, I mean, we get to kind of reminisce on the first series we had today, because as we get into the interview in just a moment, there is a lot to kind of unpack here, right? A 3-0 scoreline in the playoffs is, I wouldn't necessarily say unexpected. However, the performance that Maryland brought was certainly tremendous. In terms of their spacing, right? They were able to kind of dominate Ashland University by virtue of surprising them with some chaotic fights. And speaking of, let's just get right into it with Paul from the winning team, University of Maryland, here to join us.
Hello, Paul. First off, congratulations to you on a fantastic performance, punching your ticket to the round of 8.
Thank you.
Now, you are welcome. Now, talk to me a little bit about some of the adaptations your team made, like literally today, right? Because new patch dropped, lots of buffs and nerfs coming out, and I think one of the big things we saw was your partner there in the backline, Lazy, going over to the brig a lot more brig than I think have seen in the past. So yeah, walk me through some of those changes and how you all were able to adapt so quickly to these incoming changes.
So yeah, it's no secret that Brig is a lot better now on this bench, and Lazy kind of happens to be just a goat on any single hero that he tries to pick up. So it wasn't really that difficult for him to pick up the Brig, like just earlier today, and bring it into this match and kind of dominate the entire lobby. I taught him everything he knows, so.
Very kind of you.
No lack of confidence, certainly. Talking, of course, though, about the coming in a new patch changes up some sort of stylistic setups. One thing that we saw from your team all the way throughout this game, right, even as it was a 3-0, there was a couple of fights where you were down and out, right? Yeah, I think King's Row on that first point where you're, or the third point really, where you have basically nothing to try and close out that third point. Then the full hold as well, where you're down 3 players and still make that comeback. And then again on Route 66, a couple times where realistically the fight was lost from any expected optics, and you bring it back. What is the difference for your team that you're able to play with that tempo, with that octane, to kind of surprise your opponents? Because I don't think a lot of teams expect those holds to come through.
The main thing is we play with a lot of confidence. We're all very confident in our ability to pop off and make those sort of plays, and we all have a lot of confidence in each other to be able to make those plays. So that sort of faith in each other makes it really easy to kind of get a sense of what we're thinking and how we're planning to make plays and how to support each other when doing so.
Fantastic. Well, just one more question from me before we let you go. As you're heading off into further rounds of the playoff, any shout outs you would like to give to friends, family, teammates, whoever you would like?
Yeah, shout out to my team, shout out to my coach, shout out to the guys in Maryville who we're playing next. We're gonna win that. It's not even gonna be close. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much, Paul. Again, just oozing confidence throughout the entire interview. Thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us, and best of luck to you against Maryville next in the round of 8.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, we are about to head into our next series. It is going to be coming up very shortly after this, but one final time, just want to give another shout out to Extra Life. Once again, one of our big sponsors here. Play games to change kids' health, change the future. Click on the Twitch panel below to create your Extra Life team page today. Thank you all so much for being a sponsor here today. And with that, we are going to send it to a short break because, like I said moments ago, the next series is ready to go. So it's going to be a quick changeover. Don't go anywhere. Don't go too far. We will be back very soon. Hello everybody and welcome back. We are here in our second game of the round of 16. My name is Warren Jungle God Hammond, joined of course by LaFon. And now the next two pair of teams we're going to be seeing, Bryan and Stratton College of Virginia going up against Drexel. So another exciting match ahead of us, but this time a little bit of a more of a differential, right, in terms of the performance of these two teams during the regular season.
Yeah, this is I mean, an opportunity, you know. But the thing about that is, Jungle, is that doesn't really matter anymore because you're in the playoffs. So performance from here on out is what actually makes the critical difference. And sure, the scoreline coming into this is a little bit, you know, a little bit favorable for one squad over the other. Sure. However, I think the expectation should be from zero. The slate's kind of wiped clean from the team's perspectives at the very least. And now there's an opportunity to perform here. I think Bryan and Stratton, though, you know, you obviously give them a little bit of an opportunity. You think they're probably the team that you expect to perform just a little bit better walking in.
Yeah, I think you certainly do. They do have the record that's a little bit better. Plus, they really favor the brawl composition too, which has just been strong recently. Sure, it has you know, maybe shifted a little bit away from that, but it's still very, very strong pick for a lot of these squads. Over on the other side, right, let's talk about Drexel, because they are a team that, historically at least, right, this is another team, another squad that we have not seen on broadcast in a little while, so evolutions are happening. But it is a team that historically has really liked to run a ball Zen Brig. And especially, I mean, we saw how much value Brig got last map. I'm going to be very curious to see if that is what Drexel is going to do and just how successful it is. But now let's take a moment to look at these lineups.
And getting into this one here, and I mean, for standout performers are going to be the tank line in this one. You know, the current patch obviously coming in as of today, not really changing much up in that perspective. Only Sigma, I believe, got any meaningful changes to my memory. But what that means is it allows you to play so much more. Allows you to kind of continue to focus on the strengths you've developed over the last little while, right? Because the patch is so similar to what we've been playing on overall. The one difference, I'd say, probably the big winner is Brig. We've seen a lot of Brigitte. Well, we see Brigitte in the previous series, and I would expect to continue to see some level of it, especially if we see a Wrecking Ball step into play. So yeah, the big winner there, the support line, and you have to definitely highlight the tank line for just the tempo they're able to set for the series.
Right, and tempo was just such a big part of that last series too, right? Just seeing how well Maryland was able to keep the cart moving and kind of keep the pressure on, and take map control, and just how impactful that was. I mean, honestly, I think that was one of the biggest things that stood out to me from Maryland. It was just how well they used map control to their advantage. And map control and tank, that goes hand in hand, right? So a lot of that will be, I think, put on the shoulders of the tanks here today between Brandon Stratton and Drexel.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we're getting any surprises for map number 1, but with that being said, we can kind of gain an understanding of how the teams like to play, right? And you know, with the playoff bracket, and we should highlight two things. One, these teams haven't been on broadcast nearly as frequently as some others, right? There's not a tremendous amount of game footage on them. So this first map, what you can kind of do is take control of the series by, again, tempo, playing at a speed that your opponent may not necessarily expect. And if you can put them on the back foot in a playoff bracket, it can be very difficult to regain your standing. So the expectation coming to map number 1 with a map that is as practiced, as stable as Lijiang Tower is, realistically, the team that comes in swinging and makes that big play first, I think can easily overwhelm their opponent. So that's kind of what I'm expecting in map number 1.
A lot of that will depend, I think, as well on, again, which compositions these teams choose to play, right? And I for one, I always hope that we end up in Night Market. That's my favorite place to start on Lijiang Tower, because again, it's kind of chef's choice, right? You can go with a couple of different looks, either the rush or a ball composition or a dive composition. So love that we started there on the last map. Really hoping that's going to be the case here too, because again, I think it lets us get an idea of what these teams are going to be preferring, kind of which way they're going to be leaning as these maps go on. So yeah, as we get set to load into this, those are the big questions on my mind, right? What composition are we gonna see right out of the gates? First look at these teams, and how this first fight is gonna go. How quickly they're gonna be able to take it to the other team.
Indeed. Any chance to the calm before the storm, if you will.
This is interesting. No big surprises here. Although Brandon Stratton, actually, this is much more of a dive comp. This is not what I was expecting.
Well, you know, I think with Jimical opening up on this Sombra, keep an eye on the backline for Drexel. See how well they're able to kind of hold through. Yeah, as Brian Stratton looking to try and just be a hyper aggressive setup, and Peanut, it's very greedy play here by Drexel. But if they can get it into a map position where they can protect the Zen, they'll be able to have the greater damage output, certainly.
Oh wow, Mira's gone down to single digits right there, but able to duck behind a corner. That comes in onto a couple players from each side. Jeff Goldblum, though, very, very low from Drexel. They're going to be forced away and forced out. Vulgar, in the meantime, takes a lot of damage, too. So Drexel actually going to be the first team to kind of get to point Looks like they're going to be primed to cap it as well. But in the meantime, Beef Stir Fry has gone down. Peanut falls as well. Pest Control is able to find one, but with both, with all of your support gone here for Drexel, you're going to have to turn things around very, very quickly. Amira is at full health. They're going to be able to stage this dive pretty effectively. Respawns have come in, but in the meantime, Set is able to find Jeff Goldblum on that Brigitte. So the points starting to flip over back into Brian and Stratton's favor. They will be the winners of this first fight.
Very awkward dive from both teams, really. Brian and Stratton kind of lose sight of their target, and they don't really execute. And this is going to allow Drexel to continue to stage. Keep in mind, Drexel's a much faster moving composition because of the Wrecking Ball. They don't have to play together. And yeah, they isolate Jimical, who overstays their welcome.
Oh, and now the backline getting poked away, though, by Miro. Miro's actually has been playing very slow on the Winston as well, just kind of highlighting your point even more so. But Brandon Stratton, with the help of his nano boost, has found a couple of manually able to get into the backline, finds a pulse bomb too. So Brandon Stratton sustains through that fight and wins.
Have to just kind of slow things down now. Dueling EMPs are in play. I mean, this can be a fight-winning resource. Jeff Goldblum forced to recall immediately. Wow. Just not able to set up, and I mean now Brian Stratton just in a better position to stage for this fight-winning utility.
Oh, but Proto going down is big. Peanut falls as well. They had Transcendence online. Could be a flurry of kills for both sides, but it's just Pest Control. Wolgar still now alive for Drexel. They're going to be dealt with pretty quickly. Wolgar tries to escape, but going to be caught out. So Brian and Stratton is playing this very, very well so far.
I mean, it's a trade for EMP. The difference is that Set has the rally in time, and Peanut cannot activate. Well, I mean, none of the backline for Drexel can activate their resources. So Brian and Stratton are able to close that pretty easily. And I mean, now we're in final fight. This is a must-win situation for Drexel.
Unfortunately for them, though, they've got 4 ultimates to rely on here. A couple of supports, the DPS. Minefield going to be committed early. Here comes a Transcendence as well from Peanut. Beef is going to be hacked. Wolgar does find Set. That's going to be a big opening here for Drexel, but they need to convert it. He does find another before they are taken away and taken out. That comes in on a Wolgar, but only going to be a little damage. Point goes over to Drexel. Now they can't lose another fight. They have to play perfect.
That fight was a matter of course for Brian Stratton. You could see Miro. There was multiple instances where they could have primaled. They realized that Drexel both the backline uses both their ultimates, and just kind of lose that one gracefully and walk back in with the better resources. Drexel has nothing. Jimical with an EMP in tow. This should be an easy cleanup for Brian Stratton.
And we can kind of see the thumb screws getting tightened here a little bit as Miro's starting to walk on the point. Wolgar is going to be forced to back. Set does get hacked. They're going to be taken out, so Drexel does have an opportunity here, but the EMP is going to allow them to focus down Peanut. In the meantime, though, Wolgar says, you can take your sights on the part of my back line. I'm going to hit yours. But more of the picks coming in favor of Brian and Stratton. Press Control is taken out. Going to have a last moment contest here coming out from Wolgar, but they're forced out. Likely going to just try and give up the point, see if they can stay alive for a minefield, but they aren't able to do that. Point still, though, being contested by Drexel. It goes up to about 70%. Now we're at the 99% mark. Wolgar still waiting to spawn. We do have Tracer trying to keep the point alive here desperately. Pest Control doing a fantastic job, but the EMP comes in from Jeff. They find 5, but the kills still in favor of Brian and Stratton. The nano boost from Proto allowing Miro to just put in tremendous amounts of cleave. That's going to be Brian and Stratton taking the first point.
I mean, in that situation, it's just so tough for Drexel, right? With that 99-0 setup, or effectively anyway, and then you walk into the next fight with nothing. It's almost a miracle that they made that fight that close, right? Brian and Stratton, by rights, should have made that one, should have shut that one out so much earlier. It's a good early phase by Drexel, realizing they don't have many tools. They decide to flip the attack on its head, just go extremely quickly. But, when you have nothing, that's a gamble more than anything else. And it's nothing to lose. In this instance, nothing to gain either, as Brian Stratton will take the first round.
So now we find ourselves on Control Center. And once again, brawl. Gonna be historically what we see here. Drexel, though, they're gonna stick to their guns. They want to try and make this work with a Wrecking Ball. They're gonna force the issue here. So Wolgar has a difficult job ahead of them, right? There's not as many places to stage, not as many places to hide from and run to, and not as much high ground to really grapple on top of or just drop from. So Brian and Stratton, we can already see Miro is just putting their sights on the back line, moving forward. Jimmicle does go down. That's going to be a nice anti-nade from Peanut. And Volgar now putting a lot of pressure on the back line. BSCA looks like they just spread themselves a little too thin there. And Drexel took advantage.
They didn't isolate any individual target. There was no chase down on anyone on that brawl. And credit to Drexel for playing spacing excellently. They kind of tried to bait, or Drexel baited rather, Brian Stratton into a close quarters area where they thought they could win a fight, and instead, no, it was into an anti-nade, and then Jeff Goldblum from afar was able on an off angle to deal that damage. So tremendous stuff there from Drexel. It's a wholesale switch up from Brian Stratton, as they'll go over to the dive that they won the first round with.
So now Miro sets her sights on the coast. Gonna be a nice dive in, but the support was not there. And Beaster Fry with some help from the others able to take care of that. In the meantime, yeah, Proto has been dealt with. Volgar going in for another pretty big engagement here. Loses a lot of their health, forced to back off a little bit. They are able to get the pick on the set, which was the primary target there.
I mean, the big problem with the supports being set up this passively on Drexel's side is that Brian Stratton can't engage into it. We saw what Miro, the bubble was there. They took full 550 HP of damage before they even landed. And that's with a player taking away their attention. Jimmicle had hacked the Ana too. So, crossing that much open space without taking damage, basically impossible. Drexel, 2/3 of the way done this round now.
And showing no signs of slowing down either, but Jeff Goldblum does fall. Volgar is going to be able to strike back, and they actually take out Jimmicle, which I think is a much more impactful pick. Minefield committed now, finds a pair. So 70% on the board. Drexel wins that fight very quickly. Going to put them close to last fight territory.
I mean, that's a Wolgar winning a fight in isolation. The roll through onto the Sombra, and then the Minefield to just clean up everyone else. Really strongly played by the Wrecking Ball. Ryan and Stratton, they have a bunch of tools, but have just not been able to get into position. Every time they, try and angle into the map, they just take so much spam. So Drexel's doing a great job of marking the targets on the approach.
And here comes an EMP, this time from Jimmicle. The rally's going to get there early. The Nano Boost committed as well, so Pest Control tried to do a ton of damage, and it is tremendous what is coming out from Drexel. The EMP is going to fall flat because just the response, the rapidity with which Drexel responded to that was tremendous. And they're going to win that round 99-0. That is a huge map win, especially on a brawl map.
Yeah. Predictable, I think, is Brian Stratton's approach on that second round. They thought they had a really clever, way into the fights, but Drexel was always spaced so far away. The amount of damage that Brian Stratton took on the dive was, you could not recover from it. And Drexel, that's just understanding of the map. That's just understanding the rotation that your opponent has to take, and a really, really strong setup as they'll even up the map.
Once again, shout out to a couple of our sponsors, Extra Life and Mavix. Thank you all so much. Helping bring the Naystar League to life here for everybody. Now we find ourselves on Garden. It's gonna be one of the best places for the Wrecking Ball competition. The Winston as well. But I think just how we've seen Drexel play, gonna have to give a bit of an advantage to them here. Manuel actually going down very low, forced to back out pretty quickly, but a couple of key picks. That's going to be both supports down for Drexel. Jeff Goldblum able to take one pick. It's not going to be enough though, so Brian is trying to get first control here on Gardens.
That was all set up by Proto. The Anthony in the back line as the dive comes in, there's just no way to escape. Right? you're not surviving. You're not healing yourself when you can't even heal yourself. So Proto sets that fight up, and Miro will knock it down. Drexel, a change as Jeff Goldblum off the Hanzo. Now on to a Sojourn.
Great time to switch as well. I mean, they hardly lose any ult percentage here, so like seeing these early kind of proactive changes being made. Big anti-nade comes in though from Proto. Once again, it's going to force back several players. Ooh. Now Jimmicle able to take out Pest Control with the help of their own Tracer. Tried to hack the ball, but in the meantime, Jeff Goldblum finds manually, so Opportunity here for Drexel, as they're going to have the supports come in a little bit quicker than the opposition. But Jiggle is building this EMP very, very quickly. They are already up to about 80%. Drexel cannot finish that dive, so they're forced to kind of regroup and try again. Here comes a big dive in, though, from Miro. The focus is there with Jimmicle, and they once again delete Drexel's backline.
Yeah, really good setup there on the dive. The hack to prevent the whip shot from delaying Miro, and then obviously the damage boost that you gain from it. And then the nano onto Miro. It's an easy cleave play, an easy clean setup. And where Brian and Stratton, I think, were predictable in round number 2 on Control Center. Here, that predictability is tough to escape from. You know it's coming. You still can't do anything about it.
Oh, wow. Massive pulse bomb able to take out Jeff Goldblum. There's going to be a quick fight win here for Brian and Stratton. So Drexel will have at least one more opportunity, but the very little error can happen now for Drexel.
And I mean, Drexel also uses ults in that last one, the nano boost especially, right? Now, Brian Stratton hold all the angles into the point. You have to worry about an EMP. You're not even alive for
and here
it.
it comes. Yeah, Jeff Goldblum deleted immediately. Life will not find another way this time around as Mira continues to pummel the backline, 96% and counting, and just as dominant as Drexel looked on Control Center. That's been the story here for Brian and Stratton. Hence, Control not even able to touch point. Brian and Stratton comes away with a win here on Lijiang Tower.
It's a good start for Brian and Stratton. A little bit of a hiccup on the second round, but they'll bring it back in style. And Rig is such a strong pick in this current patch. We're already seeing just so much survivability. That 100 armor, right? Whereas before you had to kind of wait for your overhealth to stack up. Now it's just an instant extra 100 armor and so much more survivable, right? And I think the shield bash now having a stun in the ult as well means that you're a real threat when you use rally, whereas before you were kind of a pushover. So really impressive stuff from the backline. But I think where Brian and Stratton were predictable in round number 2, they were set for round number 3, right? That was they had a game plan coming in, and when you have control of the objective and your opponent has to walk into you, having that set procedure just makes you more stable and less likely to make mistakes because you know exactly what your assignment is. So yeah, a lot of credit to Brian and Stratton for kind of flipping taking the second side of the coin on the third round to give themselves map number 1.
So now the impetus, of course, going to fall to Drexel to take us to map number 2. And I think I'm going to make a prediction. I hope it's going to be correct. I don't think we're going to King's Row this time. I do not. I think it's going to be one of the rare times we see something a little bit different, because I think they're going to want to try and build off the success that we did see on Control Center with that ball composition. So any place that really plays to that, I think, is going to be the direction that Drexel is going to want to go this time around. But actually, one thing to note, though, is that Control Center being the one map they took, that is the Brawl map, and they did get it done on ball. So they may have a little bit of an advantage if they move into a situation like that. Maybe they actually do want to take Brian and Stratton to a place where they want to play Brawl, so that then they can do what we saw happen to them on Control Center.
I mean, that remains to be seen. So until this is one of the few times where map selection becomes a real difference maker with teams that perhaps aren't quite content with playing standard. The lower third there is don't worry about it. We're not going to Lijiang Tower a second time. Kings Row.
You know what? Like, honestly, if teams could do it, I think they would.
Well, Kings Row is second, so I don't necessarily agree with you on that one. If they go to a third map, yeah, maybe.
Maybe back to Lijiang.
Back to a third one, yeah.
That's fair. But it is actually going to be Kings Row. We are going to head there next. So the big question in my head actually is, how does Drexel approach this, right? Do they approach it with a ball once again? Yeah, I for one would love to see that, actually. I think that that's probably going to be one of the better looks coming out for them here today. So
honestly, the only thing Drexel really has to kind of concern themselves with when they're running mobility, when they're running dive, is that should be a little bit quicker. They're taking too long to stage into these fights, and that's what ended up costing them. With Brian and Stratton, because Brian and Stratton is playing such predictable sounds insulting, but playing such playing on set plays, right? The alt rotations, alt combinations, specific engagement timings, right? The Winston goes and the Tracer, etc., etc. If you can be in the place where your opponent wants to be before them, right? If Drexel can get there before Brian Stratton, this is very legitimately an opportunity for them. We saw that in Control Center, right? When they got to the point before Brian Stratton took better map control before Brian Stratton, BSCVA just couldn't get into any position, right? They took so much damage on their approach that they never got their combos running. So it's a case of speed. I think here in this next instance, even if we go for brawl, play a little bit quicker. Sure, you'll make 1 or 2 more mistakes, but Brian and Stratton have shown that when they don't have map control, they've struggled to this point. And I think now is where the expectation is to kind of follow through on that. Here's where you need to really punish that by, sure, making a couple extra mistakes of your own, but that's better than, allowing BSC to get in for free.
I think what's interesting about that as well is the ball composition in terms of like all the mobility based compositions is at least in my experience has been one of the ones that takes a little longer to set up, right? A lot of times you'll see if we go somewhere like Lijiang Gardens, right? The other team is able to take control of the point first because the ball composition is just spending so long surrounding it. But it's going to be a moot point here because Drexel is going to start on the defense here, and it's going to be Ramatra that they begin with.
Kind of setup still is very much the same. You cannot allow Brian and Stratton to get in for free. Force them to use cooldowns on their approach. Right? Don't give map control. Don't let it fall by the wayside. So far a good start. A lot of damage in onto Miro.
They're gonna just try to walk into point as best as they can, but Jibbicle is in the backline right now. Trying to find a target there. Eventually gonna settle on Peanut. Enough Goldboom gonna come in, finds manually right off the bat. Jibbicle continuing to try and put pressure on the backline, but getting pummeled away. Forced to transport out. Brian Stratton has to slow down and take another fight.
That's exactly what I'm sort of expecting from. That's what I like to see from Drexel. Take the initiative. Don't allow Brian Stratton in for free. Punish their rotations. And speaking of walking for free, Miro is taking so much space without even using any cooldowns here.
Yeah, this is going to be great. They're going to have so much utility once they really start to put the pressure on. It's going to be a nice anti-nade coming in from Proto as well. It's going to force Wolgro to play a lot more defensively. Now, the Nebus form comes out. They're going to be able to pummel through that shield onto Mirror and force them back just a little bit. But now Mirror has an opportunity to jump into the back line, but they don't have any of their utility left. The shield can't go down. They're going to be punished for that. And Drexel able to hold on.
What a great setup from Drexel. A little bit more passively, there was a window of opportunity for Brian and Stratton to kind of take advantage, but at least Drexel closes it down. One problem is that they did give up a third of the objective. Now here's the critical fight for this map. It's this upcoming one because Brian and Stratton have the EMP coming through.
Now we get to set up for it, and once again Mirror is actually able to take a lot of space here. EMP is gonna land. He stir fry deleted almost immediately. That's the backline gone now for Drexel. Nano Boost has been committed onto Wolgar, so they're going to be able to try and sustain just as long as they can here on point, but with an anti-nade coming in as well. That's going to be the fight over. Brian Stratton takes the first point.
Really cheap for Brian Stratton because of the trades that Drexel kind of went through. Actually, I think Brian's trying to get a move now to a close quarters engagement on top of it. Miro, yeah, there it is. Going to mirror. Wholesale changes.
Yeah, actually. Manually going on to the Cassidy as well. That's actually with manually and Jibbicle both swapping over to the used DPS, it's going to be tough for pest control, I think, to get into that backline for free. But Jeff Goldboom takes out Jibbicle. That's one piece of the puzzle down now. Anti-nade goes into the backline. Doesn't necessarily hit. Pulse Bomb could be taken care of, though, by Prota's Immortality Field.
I will say that Brian and Stratton don't have long range, close range, right? They just have mid range. Drexel, they have two sort of stages. One is Jeff Goldblum poking from afar, then pest control getting in close. Drexel are going to try and win this fight, I think, just straight up with their health advantage.
Yeah, the Annihilation is out right now. Immortality Field committed. Set. Gonna use the rally too, but it is already expired. But it's enough time for them to sustain through the onslaught that was the Annihilation. So now Miro set to try and push back in now. Brandon Stratton finds 2 right off the bat. No more DPS left. Beef Stir Fry throws in the sound barrier to just try and survive as long as they can. Will not be enough though. And in the end, Brandon Stratton gets the card moving.
That is way too late of a sound barrier. 2 players dead, and you actually commit to that Drexel. I mean, now they put themselves in the back foot in a pretty hefty way. Make a switch over now as well to the May. The problem now is that Drexel, barring Woolgar or Pest Control, getting like a hero pick off, this should be Brandon Stratton winning this fight pretty handily. Really, the expectation is it's Brandon Stratton's fight to lose in this particular engagement.
Gonna be a nice wall and Deadeye to try and zone everyone out. Typical comes in now with the Blizzard. They will find Wolgar right off the bat. So Brandon Stratton, as he said, able to just push through relatively easily. And I think one of the key things is they're, at least at the moment, holding on to this Annihilation. They did have to commit 3 ults. I think they maybe wish they could have had the Amp Matrix back, but they do get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, in an instance like that, right? You're just 3 ults. You're not gonna. Your opponent has basically nothing. It's a pretty cut and dry set. Now here for this final point rather is where it gets a little bit interesting, because now we have basically a near mirror in these teams, and with the May, Jeff Goldblum, who's been racing to this Blizzard now, this is an opportunity to just shave time off the clock. Winning a fight, sure, but you also need to kind of, I think, save the Blizzard for the sort of next engagement as well.
Mirror gonna start things out with the Annihilation. They go on a brief journey, try and find one player that's going to allow it to expire. Here comes a Dragon Strike though from Pest Control. Gonna allow them to take out manually. Immortality Field has to be used by Proto as well. It's gonna give them a little time. Heal things back up, but Pest Control still able to get a pick on a Jimmical. Walker gonna help finish things off with the help of the Blizzard from Jeff Goldblum.
Well, unfortunately, use the Blizzard there, but it's fine. The Pest Control is a great pick off there. Also, Miro, an odd choice to chase down with the Annihilation a Lucio through a corner. You don't get a lot of value from that. It ends up being a wasted one. Now, Drexel, a real opportunity, I think, to extend this fight, extend this map, basically to the overtime, by sort of staggering their resources. Overcommitting is going to be the critical difference here. The Nano Boost should be used defensively on the Ramatra when the Blizzard is activated, not before.
Nice wide wall.
I mean, now they won't use anything. The fight's already over. It's a good pick off from Pest Control again. And then a chase down onto Set. So really well done there by Drexel.
I do like manually swapping over to the Hanzo, because until that moment, there wasn't really anybody who could contest the high ground outside of Set for Brandon Stratton either.
No.
And that keeps being the case, because Pest Control, I think, is recognizing this and just taking manually out as quick as they can. Typical gonna commit the Blizzard, but the sound barrier is there from Beef Stir Fry. Won't be enough to save Peanut or Jeff Goldblum. And now with the Annihilation coming in as well from both squads, gonna be a lot of damage each of them has to deal with. Mira does fall. Wolgar with just a sliver of health. Brandon Stratton is gonna get that point closer and closer to completion. Under a minute left to go here.
Jeff Goldblum does not use the Cryo Freeze in time. I mean, there is still going to be a full recontest here from Drexel because of the Nano Boost. You'll apply it to Woolgar most likely.
Oh, that's good. Nice headshot.
Yeah, here comes the Nano.
Yeah, Typical gonna try and isolate Wolgar, but that Nano Boost, it becomes a you're trapped in here with me kind of a situation. The anti-nade gonna help momentarily, but doesn't really change the way this is going dramatically. Manuel this time able to win kind of this high ground duel, and is now able to just launch arrows down from above. Because of that, Brief Stir Fry gonna try and see if they can disrupt them, knock them off that high ground. Dragon Strike is ready to go here. They're gonna drop down to point, let it loose, see if they can kind of clear the way, keep everybody at bay from touching. It's gonna take out Beef Stir Fry and isolate several other players. Now the Blizzard from Jimmical, but Pest Control from the sidelines is found too. Peanut does eventually go down. Pest Control now on point, trying to do as much as they can, but it will not be enough. 2.3 seconds left on the clock for Brandon Stratton.
2.3 seconds could absolutely be a difference maker here in the next phases. Drexel, if they got into that overtime, then Drexel had gotten the capture with more than a minute, there would have been no further attack. So no matter what happens here, Brian and Stratton have at least confirmed they will get a second attack run should it be required. And now they head to the defense, and I mean, in the final moments, they're just utter chaos. But the one time where Emmanuel absolutely needed to win a duel comes out over top of pest control. It had been struggling, the previous part of the round, but to get that going there, I mean, sometimes you just need to make a play, and they do so, and buy space for the rest of the team to kind of close out.
Gonna come down to this. How well is Drexel's attack going to look? How strong can Brian and Stratton hold on here to the point? I anticipate we're just going to see, once again, a lot of Ramatra coming out. That seemed to be the way that this just moved for both squads. So yeah, I imagine we're just going to start with that.
Having the Baptiste instead of the Ana is interesting. One of the things too about the Ana is that you can use the Nano Boost as a defensive tool that can then transform into an offensive one, especially against the Blizzard, right? Your Ramatra is sort of expected to kind of tank the damage, and that makes it certainly a lot easier with the damage reduction coming in.
Oh wow, manually once again winning the duel right off the bat, and in fact getting another one. Huge pickups for Brian and Stratton here. That just gives them the first hold.
They don't over aggress either is the important thing. We'll buy some time. That'll be a quick see if anyone is overstaying their welcome. Brian and Stratton are a little wise to that one, so right back to the melee they go.
And manually taking actually a very aggressive angle here. They're going to be rewarded for it. They're able to take out Jeff Goldblum once again. Now got their sights set on the supports and the other sniper. Pest control falls to Jimical this time around, and this time Brian and Stratton is feeling it a little bit more, so they actually push very aggressively all the way up to spawn.
Yeah, this time
off the clock.
Well, they get the May wall down, so no one can escape back into spawn. Right, the previous time, Drexel had been able to kind of retreat into their favor. This is with how dominant these fights are. I mean, Brian Stratton now clearly ahead resource-wise.
Manually also has a Dragon Strike ready to go, so they can use that in any number of ways. It's a very, very versatile ult. They're going to use it to take out Beef Stir Fry, though. That's a great way to do it. Everybody from Drexel just fleeing in terror as the damage continues to come in unabated.
Brian Stratton just converting. They're also converting by everyone getting in on the damage action, right? Now they've raised the rest of their teams into the resource meter. Jeff Goldblum again. This has been a tough half for the May player.
Yeah. And again, we're just seeing an incredibly aggressive approach here from Brian and Stratton. They're going to be able to take out pest control once again.
Just
force everybody back at the spawn.
Yeah, Beef Stir Fry just barely gets back in. That's a fight won without anything either. It doesn't really matter that Drexel has resources. It's too, they're not really able to get to position.
Wow. Huge. Dragon Strike does come out from Drexel. They try to just open the spawn doors for themselves, but Brian and Stratton is just collapsing on them instantaneously.
Sometimes you get caught in a loop where in other times the execution would mean that you win the fight outright. Here, just a random stray arrow takes down a player, and the fight kind of vanishes. So when you get vanishing, the time is just not here either. Drexel, 1 minute left.
Ooh. Nice Dragon Strike as well from Manually. It's gonna force out the sound barrier too. Anabus has been committed. Now we've got an Annihilation on board. Sleep comes in, but they don't let them sleep long enough. Counter Annihilation now triggered by Miro. They're gonna see if they can outlast their doppelganger on the other side. Pest Control goes down once again, but this time Jeff Goldblum able to find Miro. It's gonna open things up here a bit for Drexel University. They've got one ticket on board. It's gonna be two. Fight should be theirs, but it took so long.
I mean, they're gonna force out another ultimate.
They're gonna contest.
Yeah. They want. They're hanging around here. It's not like they really can get out, so may as well throw yourself on the objective. This time the shoe goes on the other foot. A fight that realistically, I mean, Drexel don't change much. in their approach. This time, though, they just don't get randomly headshot out of spawn, and, you know, things go in their favor a little bit. Gotta be good to be lucky, but sometimes the reverse is also true. And yeah, Drexel will chase down further members. The big problem, though, is the time bank. Just because it took them so long on first, they've kind of run out of opportunities to make mistakes. And considering in Brian Stratton really should be expected to guarantee themselves a fight win with a Blizzard, you're kind of looking at this like, you know, last fight territory, and what do you have to try and close out the map?
Gonna be a big Dragon Strike coming through. Jimmical is able to find a pick onto just Goldblum in the chaos. Now Volgar forced to use Nemesis form to try and escape. The picks keep on coming in favor of Brian and Stratton. 2 minutes left on the clock now for Drexel.
Yeah, and that's and I mean, now when you have that guaranteed, the expected fight win from Brian Stratton coming through in this next one, all of a sudden things get a little bit more you know, chaotic. Here's where things get a little bit interesting though. Drexel can absolutely survive the Blizzard if it's not placed well, because of the sound barrier and the nano boost. But they can't overspend. It starts off with a good pick here as Manually gets way lacking. But that's just all it is, a start. They need a little bit more.
The Immortality Field had to be committed early, and that just allowed Drexel to continue to push forward. Jimmical does find one with a Blizzard, but that's an ultimate that I think was committed a little too late, and you maybe would have hoped to have for the next fight.
Yeah, I mean, Drexel are being allowed back in this map, and Brian Stratton perhaps thinking that they can clutch, you know, falling prey to their own success on the first point. Losing a little bit of space in this map. Now, they don't have a guaranteed fight win anymore. And Drexel, I think here's where the opportunity, you just kind of run it down. Use the sound barrier aggressively with the nano. And just play to the fact that you know you have better sustain than your opponent.
Gonna be most important ultimates up, though, for each squad. Just a little extra time for Brian and Stratton to get him. Here comes that aggressive sound barrier. We're gonna have the Ant Matrix and the Dragon Strike thrown through it as well. It's a lot of damage going in. But everybody from Drexel able to kind of kite away from it. And now with the Annihilation going forward, gonna be able to clear out a lot of space, especially with the Orbital Strike coming in as well. Miro now has Annihilation of their own, so they're trying to strike back with manually getting a pick. Drexel might be stopped here in the end. Jeff Goldblum does find one, but Jimmical gonna be able to counter that as well, so the advantage still for Brian and Stratton. 19 seconds left to go here for Drexel. There's not gonna be anybody left on the cart. I don't know if anybody even gets here, LaFon.
Yeah, we'll see if there are any quick changes. Wolgar goes over to Wrecking Ball, but against the Vortex, the Ravenous Vortex is going to be so deadly on the approach.
Oh, wow. Yeah, brief stir fry caught in it, taken out. That's gonna be that. Brian and Stratton has put themselves on match point here, taking the first 2 maps away from Drexel. Huge showing coming out from this squad. And I mean, what a defense that we saw on first point as well.
Yeah, just a commanding setup, and I mean a lot of it coming down to manually, especially those range pickoffs with the Hanzo. You know, on just stopping fights before they begin. And I think the worst part is for Drexel, it's not like they were making any particularly egregious mistakes on their approach, just getting a little bit unlucky. You give a lot of credit to the mechanics of the Hanzo, no doubt about it, and yet still recognize the fact that for Drexel, they didn't really change much on the approach that they won, and sometimes it just gets a little bit unlucky. So we'll have to try and make that comeback go, because they are down 0-2, and a chance for a Brian and Stratton to close things out in map number 3.
We're going to throw to a short break. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back with map number 3. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the broadcast. Brian and Shen College sitting at match point right now, currently up 2-0 over Drexel after a very convincing finish on King's Row. But before we get back into the action, let's just take a moment or two to shout out some of our sponsors. Once again, big one's going to be CDW, Extra Life, Duncan, Corsair, Mavix Monster, and BetterHelp.
Of course, for Mavix, an official partner of the NACE Star League and featured on one of the most comfortable gaming chairs on sites like Tom's Hardware and Tech Radar. Click on the Twitch panel below to get $55 off your next purchase. Mavix, the future of gaming.
Yeah, and I just recently got one of these chairs and absolutely love it. There's so much to love about it, honestly. There's an adjustable tension recline, locking enabled wheels. The cooling seat surface is honestly my favorite part of it. Again, I just run hot and love to try and stay cool while I'm gaming. So this chair is absolutely fantastic. I've got the M5, lots of different models available though. Please check them out. If you decide to get one, you will not regret it. Trust me. This is absolutely the best gaming chair I've ever had.
Awesome stuff indeed. As we get also a special shout out to Extra Life. Play games to change kids' health. Change the future. Click on the Twitch panel below to create your Extra Life team page.
Thank you so much for to all of our sponsors, Z2 in particular, doing so much to help bring the NACE Star League to us, and Extra Life, just an absolutely wonderful organization to support as well. Love all the support that they give to youth and to esports in general. So thank you all very much, and for those of you watching, click on their pages. Show them some love for helping to support the NACE Star League here.
Tremendous stuff. As we dial back into our series, though, it is Brian and Stratton, one map away potentially for punching their ticket all the way through. And I mean, at times a little bit of a struggle from them, but overall a more dominant showing. So even in certain instances where things have perhaps not quite gone their way, they're still able to pull it out in the very end. And with that, they find themselves now at map number 3. Route 66 for Escort is where we are headed to next. And it is last chance for Drexel University from here on out, right? The expectation is that their backs are against the wall. They cannot lose any further. We'll see if it starts here on Route 66.
And Route 66, apparently the new Circuit Royale, at least is so far here today. But honestly, I love it. I think Route 66, one of my favorite maps. I love what it brings to the table, and just how much you are free to express yourself as a team on Route 66. We talked about it a little bit before, but I think it bears repeating. The poke composition, dive composition is very, very strong here. And if you've got a really good brawl, you can absolutely brawl here. And the only thing we haven't seen out of these teams so far is that poke composition. And both the brawl and dive are looking very good from both of these squads. So can't wait to see how each of these teams is going to approach this map.
Yeah, we'll get an opportunity here for a second. And I mean, let's for Brian and Stratton, their ability to kind of turn on a dime has certainly been tested in this match, and at times has perhaps wandered. I think I'm looking at their King's Row attack, and even that opportunity on the second phase of Control Center, right, where they just really weren't able to get anything going. But when all cylinders are firing, they're really going. And Drexel needs to find a way to throw a wrench in the works, right? This is the point that was kind of made at the start of the second map still rings true. When they allow Drexel, when Drexel allows Brian and Stratton to set up the SC, they just really are uncontested. And once certain issues are thrown, once they're challenged a little bit, that's where perhaps opportunities can be found. But I mean, Drexel, those moments where they put those wrenches were a little bit few and far between, keep the series going. So we'll have to come up in a big way here. Map number 3 underway.
You do have Drexel on the wrecking ball composition on defense. I do like, again, I really like the echo coming out. I like this in the last map, and I like it here. One thing to note as well is that Jeff Goldblum has swapped roles now. They are going to be playing support, whereas we have Peanut on DPS here. And Brandon's Trend looking once again to just try and take a little bit of map control, see if they can kind of surround this high ground, and then starting to kind of tighten the screws here. Pest Control eats a biotic grenade. That's going to be big go button here, and Jimmical is in a position to follow up on it. Proto has to use their biotic grenade to stay alive, or rather Jeff Goldblum does, and that's going to force Miro back. They aren't able to quite get the job done, but Peanut finds manually. Going to make things a little bit tougher again, or rather here for Ryan and Stratton. So Drexel strikes back. They're going to get their supports back a little bit quicker as well. Miro trying to hold on to that high ground, commits the shield, but is forced to back away. And this card getting a lot of progress.
Yeah, the stacking of the repair packs is tremendous amount of healing. That's actually kept so many players up. And with Jimmical going down, I think Brian and Stratton are going to have to kind of reassess the situation. Yeah, they'll retreat for the moment. And
yeah,
Wolfgar has just gotten so much passive value by pressing E and paying attention. I mean, Beast Survive also hasn't really been in the thick of the fight, but really good job keeping their team alive.
Anthony briefly goes in. Jeff Goldblum able to find Miro as they try to kind of disengage and leave that point that they had taken. Manually puts a little bit of pressure on Card, but crucially the recall is forced out as well, so they can only stay for so long. But it's enough time for them to get back to the rest of their team.
The dives just have not been able to kind of sync up. Right? Look how much damage they take, and Miro's so far away from this Primal Rage. At this point, you expect him to be the 70 marker.
Jimmical goes down low. They do have the they are able to get out, and they're gonna have the EMP. Nanoboost committed now. Oh yeah, huge. It's gonna prevent Miro from doing a lot of work, and in fact their health goes so low they're forced to back up to the safety of the cart. This is gonna be a duplicate coming in now, courtesy of Peanut, trying to take the place of Wolgar for a moment as they have fallen asleep. Zet lets loose with the rally, but Beef Starfry gonna take them down, pop one of their own. The Nanoboost committed as well, and Drexel takes care of business once again.
This is what I was talking about Brian Stratton, you know, being very predictable in their approach, and when they're denied that opportunity to get in for free, all of a sudden their game plan falls apart. So Drexel doing a great job of stymieing, right? You know where they're coming in, you know their angle of attack. The question is now, where do you put that pressure point? And here, a lot of that has come down to making sure that the dive target is the Ana, and then throwing repair packs to keep them alive, and then Brian Stratton's dive just falls apart.
We're gonna try and get it started with an EMP. They do find Jeff Goldblum. Pest Control is gonna trigger the Bob though to see if they can put a little pressure on a point, see if they can just buy some time for everybody to come back in. But Miro's taking a lot of damage as well, forced to use the Primal Rage. Beef Stir-Fry does fall. A nice biotic grenade there from Proto. And is it going to be enough time, though, to stall out the point? Drexel gets one on at the last moment. It's going to be Wolgar just swinging through, get a little bit of Volt Charge, tries to get out, but manually chasing them down. And we're going to be able to escape, though.
Still, now here's where the concerns for Brian Stratton come, is that perhaps your attacking half has become a little bit more predictable. And your approach now can be sort of red. Yeah, manually trying to get on the flank gets forced by the recall and that duel against Press Control, and Peanut comes in with a cleanup. So getting tougher and tougher to get these clean engages that Brian Stratton were so effective with in the first two maps.
And now the focus will be coming in as well. Jeff Goldblum has done a very good job, I think, as well on the Ana, hitting some pretty impactful biotic grenades. Natabu's going to be committed to Miro. And we'll try to get a hack in as well to create a little bit of chaos. Peanut sets their sights once again on Miro, seeing if they can force them to back away, but they've got enough health to sustain through the focusing beam. So now they've got their sights set on the back line. Jeff Goldblum going to be hacked. Manually tries to go in, but Beast Surfer is there to save them. Now Miro dropping back to point. Pest Control finds another with a pulse bomb. Drexel slowly turning this into advantage, but Miro and Jimmical combine for a pair. Where it does take out Proto. It's not done yet. Wolgar commits the minefield as well. That's going to allow them to create a little bit of space here and allow Pest Control to get a little bit of work done as well, isolating several targets. Now the focusing beam once again coming on to Miro, but the support is there from Jimmical this time. Brandon Stratton able to hold on.
Just barely keeping this one going. Keep in mind, time is not on their side, though. A minute and a half, and there is going to be a recontest available for Drexel. You see the staging from Brian Stratton as they look to try and get this EMP on the approach.
Yeah, they're going to want to get it quick as well because Peanut, I imagine, is looking to duplicate, most likely to Winston. And if Jeff can commit a nano boost to them as well, they can get a lot of value out of it. Here comes the EMP. Actually, Peanut's going to go over, I believe, to the Ana is who it ended up going on. Not sure if that was intentional or not. Manually goes in. Does find one with the pulse bomb because it's going to be traded out. Card being contested at the moment. Miro still trying to get out to the card. Finally able to. Dives on the Beast Stir Fry. Able to take him out. Hack comes in as well into Wolgar. They're going to be dealt with quickly and efficiently. So, Brandon Stratton does get through, and they've got a little bit of extra time moving into third.
Yeah, that was so close. Realistically, Drexel, again, getting a little bit unlucky with their approach. Can't quite get the cleanup that they need on their ultimate combos because they really dodged the EMP, right? Jimmickle does not set that one up for success. Now for Drexel, it's all about surviving this nano. They need to stop the cart from getting free progress.
And we are going to be committing a lot into this. There comes the nano from Proto right in the nick of time, so they're able to continue to push forward. Wolgar tries to drop back to see if they can help out a little bit with the Primal Rage going now. Their sights set firmly onto Jeff Goldblum. Here comes the focusing game as well from Peanut to try and drive away Mira, which they're able to successfully do, but a lot of cart progress has been made.
Still, that's what they needed to do. They need to survive against the Nano Primal because now Brian Stratton don't have a ton of tools. Here's where you turn the heat back on and try and play very aggressively.
They're going to have to do it, though, before Typical gets this EMP online. Wolgar going to be falling asleep in the back line. The hack doesn't quite come in. Wolgar looking to escape, but a nice biotic grenade able to keep them outset. Did he finish things off here for Brian and Stratton? A minute left to go here. And now this is the do or die time for Drexel. They have to come up with a nice hold here. Otherwise, it's going to be at least round number 3 and 4 here, courtesy of Drexel. And Typical does have EMP back online. They can use it in response to this minefield that's going to come up manually with a beautiful pulse bomb as well. And the Peanut really going to slow things down quite a bit. Wolgar has already committed the minefield to point. The EMP has already gone to Miro. Now dropping back. They are able to take out Pest Control too. 30 seconds left to go here. Drexel at this point just wants to try and prevent them from finishing with time, and they're able to get a couple of key picks on the point as well. Beef Stir Fry with the rally, keeping everybody alive at the moment. Jigwiggle going down to about half health, but Nanabu's committed on the set, who also has their rally going. The Raid Boss doing a ton of work on point right now. Jigwiggle jumping back into the fray. Peanut has swapped over to as well the Genji. 9 seconds left to go here. It's still anybody's game. The picks are coming in for both sides, and that is only going to favor Drexel in the end, who's got a couple extra players on point compared to Brian and Stratton. Manually, the heroic effort tries to push the card in, but they will stop just short. Now it's all up to Drexel's attack.
Yeah, Brian and Stratton in those final moments throw away some very big resources. No one was able to follow up off the EMP because of the spawn doors. And that allowed Drexel to recollect themselves. And with that approach, I mean, you know, the spawn's so much stronger. Not having any impact utility, there's just no way to sustain through the damage that Drexel and the bodies that Drexel was able to throw at the problem. So Brian and Stratton will be denied the full capture. Drexel University, their win condition this map has been set. Complete Route 66, stay alive. Anything else, and they are out. And what a tremendous showcase, though, from Drexel in those final moments.
It certainly was. And honestly, I feel like through most of the course of that map, I think the only place that it really felt to me like Drexel kind of dropped the ball would have been on second. Kind of the streets here of Route 66 when it just seemed like they had things kind of in their control, but it just lost it towards the end, especially towards the end of second as well. So Brian and Stratton College, it looked a little rough, I feel like, at the beginning of that. And Drexel was really able to capitalize on it. So if Drexel could get a nice quick push here through the first point, I think that's going to be the biggest gauge, at least in my mind, of whether or not this is going to be a successful push from them.
Getting a chance to get this clean dive would be tremendous. They can't, again, Brian and Stratton have the benefit of being on the defense, so Drexel has to approach into their space, which, again, Brian and Stratton, those set plays, they're given much more cover to kind of work from. And that's where they've succeeded this series so far. And we're already seeing that kind of show up manually, isolating Peanut, who had no way to really escape to their team.
We're not necessarily even that far away, though. So I think kind of getting that much value manually is very big. Biotic Grenade is going to force Brandon Stratton back for just a moment. But all that really has done is kind of set them back in this neutral setup position where they want to be. Another Biotic Grenade comes in, though, and Mira's down very, very low. The support's trying to heal him up. So Pest Control is going to come in, try and cause a little bit of damage up top. In the meantime, Jimical has found Volgar. So this card is not making the progress that I feel like it needs to do. Brandon Stratton is playing this exactly how they need to, and Drexel just cannot find an opening, cannot find a way in.
I think we're going to see a switch from Wolgar, yep. Going over to the Winston. They're just not getting that tip of the spear, the sort of direction for their die that they kind of need to. They're not forcing Brian and Stratton to really use many cooldowns. The one bright side, though, is Jeff Goldblum is able to use these Bionades aggressively rather than defensively. So you're holding the front line at least somewhat in check. Now, the next step is to actually confirm those eliminations.
Wow. It's going to be a big dive onto Proto. They're going to be able to sustain through that, and now with a hack coming onto Wolgar, they are forced once again to back out. And in the meantime, Manuel is continuing to find value. The Nano Boost has been committed onto Miro. Once again, Drexel forced back. That's 2 minutes off the clock, and still Drexel is waiting for the first fight win.
I mean, now we're also starting to get to the point where you can just really bleed the clock away. Big EMP. No follow-up, though.
Yeah, Miro is a little bit late to the party, so the sustain is able to come in. They do back them away a little bit.
That's
Rally going to be forced out, though. Yeah. Ooh. Miro almost takes Wolgar off the point. Nano Boost committed to Wolgar now as well, but the damage is already done.
I mean, that was the appeal from Miro and Set, juggling the Winston as they're trying to get in on the with the Nano Boost, and by the time the Winston lands, the fight's already over. So a lot of credit to the Brig there, fight-winning position from Brian Stratton.
Speaking of the Brig, now Set has Rally ready to go too. So this next engagement from Drexel is going to be really long and drawn out. We're just going to get the Nano Boost online as well, so if they need a little bit more after that, they can just throw it on Miro, try and create space. It's going to be a nice Dragon Strike, though, going through the high ground, and they cut that Rally short. They're able to knock out Set. So now Wolgar going to be looking to see if they can take control of this high ground, allow Drexel to see if they can stage a dive from there. You know, forcing everybody back, but it does go down. As control falls, though, so but fortunately they are on the Tracer, so they're going to be able to get back into this quick. In the meantime, though, Miro does find Peanut. This is definitely not over yet. Drexel hurting now. Going to be forced away from the point here for just a moment. Wolgar going to go back in. They're going to be able to stay pretty long at this point, so yeah, they're going to go ahead and pop the Primal Rage, see if they can focus down Set potentially, but a hack's going to come in. All that extra damage plus the Biotic Grenade means they're not going to be able to stay nearly as long as they want to. They actually overstay their welcome. That's going to give a big advantage to Brian Stratton. 7 seconds left to go here. LaFon, Drexel in a do or die situation. They do commit the Nano Boost onto Pest Control. They're getting something done. The DPS actually for Drexel coming in clutch right here, but they have to deal with Set, who is still holding on to point, causing a lot of problems. Nano Boost has been committed to them as well. They're going to get the Rally online here in just a moment, but they're taken out. Nice headshot from Peanut to finish them off, but the Tesla Cannon doing a lot of work. Just 4 HP left remaining. Miro in the nick of time. Wolgar back over to the Wrecking Ball, trying to cause some chaos, but it's all going the way of Brian and Stratton right now. Beef Stir Fry is on the Kiriko, is able to briefly keep Wolgar alive. Peanut has swapped over to the Genji, trying to get back to point. Wolgar is staying alive for an incredible amount of time, but that is all it's gonna be, and Brian and Stratton punch their ticket to the round of 16 with another 3-0 win. It's time over Drexel.
And mastering the chaos there, Brian and Strat in the very end. Indeed, it sets the highlight-worthy player here on this map. But in general, I mean, what that point for supports at that tail end, it's so tough to get anything done against the Nanoed Brig, especially with the Rally coming in. Drexel made close work of it. Tragically just not close enough, and they'll drop out of the bracket, unfortunately for them. But hearty congratulations at 3-0. And for Brian and Stratton, some moments where they were perhaps looked a little bit mortal that they quickly shut down on their defensive half, and they'll complete a 3-0 that looked pretty dominant.
They're definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with in the round of 8. A lot to look forward to there. But yeah, with that being said and done, this is going to be our last match of the evening. We're going to get an interview coming in very, very soon, so stick around for that. In the meantime, though, I mean, what a great showing from both these teams. And I think one of the biggest stories of today is honestly just the dominance of Brigitte. If you had any doubt in your mind that this buff was going to be impactful, you gotta let that die. It has been, I think, proven today beyond a shadow of a doubt by both these squads.
I mean, it helps that she now has an ultimate that actually feels scary, right? In previous patches, we'd see Brig use Rally, and that's the go button for the opposing team to chase them down. Now, use Rally, and the Brig is actually a threat between the armor, 300 HP, so you're a lot tankier, and then also the stun, just able to kind of buy value and space and time. So yeah, Brig certainly a big winner here, and speaking of big winners, Brian and Stratton taking that 3-0.
And let's talk to one of those big winners. We're gonna get straight to the interview. We've got the tank Miro here from Brian and Stratton College in Virginia. First off, big congratulations to you today, punching your ticket to the round of 8. Miro, congratulations to you and the rest of your squad.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Now, yeah, I asked a similar question to the first thing we had on broadcast here tonight, but I want to pose it to you all as well. How do you feel? How do you feel like the impact of the Brig buffs kind of came to the forefront today? What were some of the big moments? Do you feel like that was a big change? And were you all? I mean, clearly you were able to adapt in time to make it a big part of your game plan. But yeah, talk me a little bit through about how that worked out for you today.
I actually feel like it worked more in our favor because our support player Seth does not mind playing Brig at all, and as you can see, he loved the changes. Pop Q, just run it down at them. So I actually feel like changes worked in our favor. It's let us play this comp. Yeah.
I was so shocked.
I gotta ask you, because obviously Miro being the tag that you have going for you, I can assume that Winston a favorite pick of yours.
Yes. Has been seen since middle school.
That's awesome.
Dialing into the composition specifically, though, aside from the Winston setup, what has this patch meant for your team? Right, obviously the Brig, we've talked about that, but for the rest of it, coming into a new patch, things are going to shift. Has that affected your squad in terms of what you've been able to play, or is it sort of what you've expected and you kind of continue what you've been playing through the past little while?
I feel these changes, it helps us play like the Tracer Somber comps and allows us to play more Monkey, so we don't have to always like match Brawl and play Ryan. So I feel like the changes definitely help us and enable us to play these comps.
Now, what are, of course, you're heading into the round of 8, right? Closing in on that grand finals map. What are your expectations as a squad moving into these next few games?
To really dial in, focus in, and make sure we actually listen to each other and keep trusting each other and keep these coordinated dives going up. And yeah.
I like it. Focusing on the how. That's a great way to just get it done. So, love to hear that. Last question coming out from me. Do you have any shout outs you would like to give to friends, family, teammates, whoever you'd like?
Shout out my coach right there, my lovely teammates, they're phenomenal. College, Bobcats, my girlfriend, and my friends.
All right, well, thank you so much, Miro, for joining us here tonight on the desk again. Congratulations to you, and best of luck as you move into the round of 8.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's going to do it for us here tonight, LaFon, but there's plenty more action coming your way from the Naystar League over the course of the next few weeks. Lots more Overwatch happening, as well as many other titles, so be sure to stay tuned in. Be sure to give lots of love to our sponsors here at the Naystar League. It's going to do it from us here tonight. GG's, and see you next time.